Well, we're after our pre-meeting. We'll go ahead and get started. We're gonna run through a few of these items. Our administrative item 1.1. So request for preliminary approval in the Windmill West Subdivision. 89 lots. Tammy?
We go up to just a little background on this one. A rezone was approved from A1 to R115 and R3 back in March of this year. In July, the development agreement recorded. Total project area consists of 25.15 acres. In calculating the number of units they're entitled to and what they're proposing, that's a little bit different actually. They are entitled to 63 detached single-family dwelling units. They were still in 64 on the plat, so we're going to ask you to modify that prior to final approval. And they're proposing 26 townhomes, so 89 total units. Lot sizes range from 6,300 square feet to about 14,500, which range from 60 feet to 145 feet. Setback for the R115 zone will be applied to the detached, and then the townhomes don't have any setbacks other than 10 feet from the right of way, and no further back than that. 20-foot wide private drive to access the townhomes, otherwise public roadways throughout. Went through we combed through their development agreement. There is an agrarian theme that applies to the townhome component of this development. Those are outlined in the development agreement. We've got pathway requirements along their northern boundary, and something that wasn't clear in the staff report that I've added in my presentation with the condition of approval is that 10-foot pathway along their northern boundary needs to go all the way to 700 west. So even though they don't own that land in the corner there, their development agreement requires them to extend that pathway all the way to 4700. I'm assuming that's right.
We will.
It's in the development agreement, and it was discussed multiple times. My understanding is, they're also required to have a 10-foot pathway within the 4700 west right of way. A couple of their roadway cross sections don't quite match what we've got in our ordinance and their development agreement, so we will also require that they update their road cross sections and that they be approved prior to coming to final approval for any of those spaces. Minimum $2,500 park donation for the dwelling unit. This is in the development agreement. The development agreement is transferred before the park district up their donation requirements. So you'll see in the presentation that a couple of conditions of approval have been added for clarity, really more than anything else, but we haven't discussed. Central with sewer, Taylor West Weaver, River irrigation will be servicing this development. The letter that you got from Taylor West Weaver expired a few weeks ago, so we will require a current final approval letter prior to coming back for final approval. And as you know, the preliminary approval comes before you, but Rover, the county resident, and to go into the final approval. It's supposed to be a 3-phase development.
Townhomes always supposed to have that higher ceiling on the first floor than on the base, right?
Correct.
And 10-foot setback, takes into consideration after the plan. So on the one day.
Any other questions on this one? All right, next item. This can be a request for approval of conditional use permit to operate a horse boarding business and riding, commercial riding. How much is that right now? Located across the 31 north, 3175, way up.
And on that one, the building is, right?
Correct. Many buildings are being proposed. They all meet required in the setbacks to the zone and for the board development. Any equestrian training and stable facility operation is a conditional use in an A1 zone. Things that we typically consider with a conditional use permit are things like the traffic mitigation, parking and landscaping. They've already got an existing commercial kennel on site. They've got a business license for that. There are no zoning violations. Code enforcement has no concerns with adding this onto the same 5-acre site. They've got ample parking, their landscaping requirements are met. And they've got existing acreage, based on the acreage that they're proposing to dedicate towards the animal use. They could have up to 26 horses, but they've got, I think, 11 stables in there. I believe the applicant's going to be here tonight. If you have any questions you want to ask, this is actually on a private road within this subdivision. Trying to think if there's anything else. I think because so much of everything is existing, there really wasn't a whole lot to require. They're not proposing exterior lighting. They're not proposing any additional signage. Applicants indicated that while they don't intend to have more than a couple of additional vehicles on site, they don't necessarily want to be tied to that. They do have questions about the time of that. They want to make sure they're not limited in case they're going to be there. Do you have any questions?
There's nothing in ordinance that restricts them from having more than one conditional use. Property, multiple business. Anything else then?
What do you want to get the vote? We know how to. Just take that one to.
They indicated in their application that it's not to you know, that is good for one. That might be a good question.
That's what the ordinance is about. And actually, what the ordinance about, that's problem. It's a positive law. So, are you saying the like, no, I mean, you may cowboys, I can't,
Okay. Nothing else? You can still have under legislative items in the public hearing. And possible decision regarding the application for land to the general plan and support the west. The Weaver River. So hopefully the staff report was pretty clear for you guys. You guys have already seen the applicant's layout. I just kind of plugged that into your existing general plan. And looked at both sides of 4700, so we don't have one side of 4700 stacked with a bunch of these and stuff like that. So creating that nice little transition. A good hard look at the 4700 south and the 12th Street intersection, as well as the 4700 900 south intersection, just to make sure that the applicant's project flows well with that project, and if it does, then make some tweaks, but the tweaks that I made really just brought our general plan map into conformance with better conformance with our regulated plan. So there was something so now I don't know if you recall, but we have a pre-regulated plan. Some of the details of the areas were just a little bit unknown when we did the general plan. That became known. We have a final better knowledge. There are a handful of other items in the general plan that we're saying to look at if you want to. If you got or not, you just stick with the applicant's request in that 4700 West corridor. Great. If you want to look at those other items, they're further in the staff report. One of those items is well, we'll talk to the county commissioners a little bit about what they want to see for the long haul along 12th Street corridor. They said it'd be nice if we can get it right the first time, so we don't keep on have people keep on asking for general plan amendments. And so if they want to look a little bit more expansive than just this project, but I don't think they want necessarily either project installed. Because
I just thought low hanging fruit was where that future freeway interchange is, 12th Street. Maybe we take a good close look at that, if you guys like what's there, that's nice, or if not, in your motion. Well, if you do pass the other one, in your motion, just that only with the applicant's request, that 4700 west corridor. Exclusive.
So I think if given this is an application from someone, and we need to focus on the application area, we can look at the other area for that. My issue with that other area is until it's pinned down, that you are, is confirmed that's the corridor.
Yeah.
I don't want to go through making a whole bunch of things with you.
What if it's not? Yeah.
And I know there's been a lot of talk about that lately, as to what that corridor is. You know how the state works, if they plan off the numbers, and the number is never one for that far west. So I would hate to see it, the numbers want that stays on the line of 5100, like it's coming into the south end of Weaver County, and we built this big area out there for the further west. We can get into it one.
Yeah, well, the being proposed is to look at the general plan all the way down to the boardwalk. Is that what you,
Actually, even further, so you've got two options. You got one at the freeway interchange, so right at the corridor, and then the other option is maybe you can take some of that mixed residential assignment along 12th Street or 900 south at that point, all the way down to the 300 west. So really just kind of planning out the rest of that corridor. I know the commissioners would like to not use as hard questions like change the general plan as frequently as they have been. However, the amount of acreage that we're looking at, the variety of different desires of the community, I think it's going to be it's going to be hard for us to dial it in to exactly what it should be for the next 20 to 50 years. You know, maybe something we could look at, and not necessarily as part of this project, so in the future, when we do talk about general plan adjustment, maybe that corridor, the freeway corridor, maybe we do general plan, like a tentative idea of general plan. If this corridor is pinned down right here, this would be a great area for some commercial to begin. If not, so maybe it's kind of a fixed thing, so we kind of let the future play out, and we'll have plans for a variety of alternatives. Any questions about that, or any questions about the applicant specifically?
So maybe explain to me a little bit why you would prefer changing the general plan, where the applicant kind of got that overlay zone in there, but in that recommendation, which on that, all those areas.
We just haven't used that symbol on the map. We haven't used that kind of concept on the map yet. We have used other kind of concept codes and the small contributions. That's already kind of hard to look at, but to isolate certain areas, rather than thinking the whole thing at once.
So essentially, are they asking for mixed use in all those areas, or?
They're asking for, everything that they're saying after, essentially. So single family, mixed, you know, all kinds of things. But they just want to make sure that it's clear that, in some spots they can do single family residential or commercial. Other spots they could do single family residential or commercial. Which mixed residential includes single family. That's why I just recommended go to orange. Mixed residential is really specific housing type. So you could do everything from single family up to multi.
and it's an overlay, so it's over 50 dollars. Yeah. So
So
not on the general plan.
this change specifically would go on the general plan.
Yeah.
Now, when we look at the rezone, assuming the general plan, does get adjusted, the rezone will want to look at an overlay, for sure.
Advise for these changes back to this proposal.
That's right, that and that brings, they're not gonna be asking to rezone up to property, so putting together a zone that, can provide some standards across the area, that would be the overlay, and then there would be the.
Now, and I think there's been inaccurate information about what general plan does. And it's unfortunate And the two guys we didn't, know, participation to bring it from there, so that people understand. And that the general plan is a guiding document, it is not a forever document. And so it's a little frustrating, especially for us, staff and for the commission, for the planning commission, to get fingers pointed at you when there's no participation in that, and people don't really understand what the draft as the general plan is about. So,
And I think that frustration isn't necessarily about the general plan adjustment. I think it's about the idea that development process, which they can take it out on the general plan or on the planning commission when you change it, or on the county commission when you change it, but ultimately, it's just cast in stone, at the idea, which is fine, but it has their opinion. Changing, not getting this on the map doesn't mean that the county commission or that you guys can't approve or rezone it. The general plan is just there to set up some principles, some ideas, that's all it is.
well, and it's all in the, I think that where you don't have to, people think automatically, if they're on property there, but they automatically got to do with that property is what you're trying to find, right? No, it gives them the option to do. Because they can do that part.
Yep.
It's not being forced, and that's where this, it gets separated. Separated. Oh, you know, the plan is, this, that when you guys look at these guys, and they say, I don't know, all that kind of gets lost. Right. And one of the things that you do is then finding the use. The friends are coming to the beginning of the college here, and people going to that. So the government is rebuilding. So that's the action we have. You can go out there and do it. It's not about the choice. Sometimes people think, oh, the government kind of gospel,
That would make you all profit.
Responsibility thing. I'm good. For you. The concept is modified and updated, and we'll all say that that kind of talks about it going in, and fortunately, there is an upgrade. Because then I think these guys actually, the high school they did, in fact, I was starting out there today, we're kind of looking at the areas kind of in, how things have changed there. And that may be an even point that we focus on in the idea to talk about, well, that would be a really good plan, because it's happening, for the things to be,
If we wait and change our plan until after these happen, we're just playing catch up at that point.
Look at it like life. We all have the same master life, and we all just follow exactly where that was. Life would be on a daily basis. I change is what probably drove the point of this application to be in front. I mean, where it was when the general plan was done a couple years ago. Things change and you just have to hold it out. So it's a different world today. That's about 4 years.
Yeah.
We do want those in to talk about the one thing to the recommendation is going to be the statement.
No, man, first of all.
Before you put on the letter, and leave the river north, so go to different south, and then after that, and you provide other land use, not adjustments, but not but other land.
The other adjustments. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I can see you looking at it, what it is, but they're not gonna- but,
My problem with that is it ties back to that other, because I've already had a request from them for that area. The reason why I have it is we collect all that for them.
One of the two people do that. We get that. Yeah, I always talk to you, that, we on it, and then, that needs to be recognized.
Very much will be lost.
Once the deal, yeah. They're gonna be, well, you know, like I said, it's been a line around a couple years. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and you think they got free.
They're gonna go back to whatever the county, say, the law.
Way more than what we ever.
Yeah, that's
So,
But I don't think it's any kind of.
no matter what we do, it's.
Not as part of this, the big proposal, but like, fine, I say we vote on it, make a decision, but I just don't wanna, for one, they should be separate. If there's a county initiative change that's happening, if you're doing the tax work, I think they should have come to the county. So that's the stuff further left. This application to pay money to hear their stuff out, let's hear their stuff out. If we wanna look at other areas, well, then let's bring it through at that time at its own, you know.
Well, we did it with the planning commission about, they took very, very good process, and then they hold off on other stuff, and then did that, before their time, that is. The work we found is, okay, and then from here on, we go. That's what, it's pretty good to do, to work on it, and then, we're in the process of looking. We do that, oh, we've got to draw that line on that, where, when we do it, where the then we do that. And then, some people think it's got, just because it's already reserved, they'll go ahead and do it.
That would be the whole.
In their wisdom, right. Right. But we have some concerns there, especially about that family. They may say, we don't want to destroy the east.
Where the numbers are one.
Yeah, and so the way. Yeah, and not saying they have. Basic, they think that we would.
I think we're gonna have to 5 o'clock.
You want to just stay around for 5 extra minutes? Are we coming back here for the weekend? All you want? It's a little better. So if that's the case, you go.
Then we go down on our phone again.
Yeah. Start by road, we don't have to leave it. Or you can see.
Yeah, we call back.
I guarantee you, you got
Right, to see what's gonna be done at all.
Just water in the present?
Oh, yeah. Good.
All right, I'd like to welcome everyone out to the Western Weaver Planning Commission meeting. Today is November 12th. This is our regular meeting. Go ahead and we're going to excuse Commissioner Klontz and Commissioner Wickern from tonight's meeting. They were unable to attend, and I appreciate all the rest of you taking time away from your day to be here with us. So if y'all wouldn't mind standing and repeating the pledge with me. Thank you all for that. I'm gonna dive right into our agenda, we're gonna start with our administrative items. Item 1.1, this is file number LVW 101424, a request for preliminary approval of Windmill West I Subdivision consisting of 89 lots, 63 detached single family and 26 townhome units in an R115 and R3 zone located at approximately 800 south, 4700 west. Director Grover?
Thank you, Chair. As the commission look at this item, you're going to be looking at the land use code and how it is complying or is not complying with the ordinance. And if it is meeting the code, then you are to approve. You can approve with conditions, but you would be following the code. On this one, you would not be taking public comment. You would be just looking at the code, and if it's meeting those requirements, then you approve or approve with conditions. There's another item on the agenda later on that will require a public hearing, and that one you will definitely take public comment on, and we'll talk about that when we get to that.
Okay, thank you, Director Grover. Tammy, what you got for us?
Hey, thank you, commissioners. We have got before you a request for preliminary approval of Windmill West subdivision. This is a three-phase subdivision consisting of 89 lots, 63 of which are detached single-family dwelling units and 26 will be townhome units. Just a little background on this one. Back in March of this year, a rezone was approved for this piece of property that consists of 25 acres. It went from R1 to the from A1 to the R115 and R3 zones. Some things to kind of note about this that were part of the rezone and are in the development agreement, and those standards in the development agreement will be applied to this subdivision as it goes throughout the process. The developer and the Parks District have agreed on a $2,500 donation per dwelling unit that we will require prior to recording any phase of this subdivision. Public right-of-ways are proposed throughout, with the exception of the private drives that will access the townhomes from the rear. And Central Weaver Sewer, Taylor West Weaver, and Hooper Irrigation will be servicing this proposed subdivision. This is the proposed layout of the subdivision. I wanted to point out a few things on here. One of them is that we've got quite a range of lot sizes in here. You've got lots that range from 6,300 up to 14,500 square feet. The widths are anywhere from 60 feet to 145 feet. We have setback standards that will be applied to the detached single family. The setback standards per the development agreement for the townhomes are that they are no more than 10 feet back from the right of ways, but there are no minimum setbacks. Couple of other things to point out here, these private drives here. So none of these units along 4700 will be accessed from 4700. They will be accessed from the interior of the project area via a 24-foot private drive here. There is an agrarian theme and a development standard that applies only to the townhomes within this development. One of the things that I want to make sure is mentioned is that in discussions with the developer, when the rezone was going through its process, it was agreed upon between the developer and the county that a 10-foot wide pathway would be developed all the way to 4700 West. This is stated pretty specifically in the development agreement, though it may not be as clear in the staff report that you've got before you. And so it has been added on as a condition just for clarity. There's also a pathway required along 4700 West, a 10-foot pathway as well. And again, those are outlined in the development agreement and in your staff report. Let's see, as you can see here, they've got 3 phases they're proposing. This is phase 1 here. Phase 2. Phase 1 consists of about 31 lots, phase 2 of about 32 lots, and then the townhomes of 26 lots. This is just an enlargement of this area here. You've got a proposed sewer lift station that is required to be installed per their development agreement. They've got a detention basin and a pocket park that have development standards also outlined in their development agreement. Most of these, I think we've pretty much gone over. One thing I do want to point out though, is that there is a secondary egress requirement with this subdivision. Currently, the developer has got a secondary egress that goes up to the north, and will eventually connect to a little bit further north. There's a little bit of an access. It's not necessarily a dedicated road, but there is an access. The developer, and he's here today if you have questions for him, Mr. Leverage, is in discussions with property owners to the south to possibly have their secondary egress out to the south and over to 4700. We will require that the developer secure this egress prior to recording their first phase of this development. This pretty much, I think, sums up the presentation. These would be the conditions of approval. Those in red, I put in here just to clarify and make sure there aren't any questions. You're welcome to base your approval upon all of these. The rest are already contained in your staff report. Do you have any questions for me right now?
Any questions for staff?
Was the updated pack in the handout tonight?
I hope so. It was swapped out last Thursday. So
Current one.
I think it does mention those last things in this new one. Where did I see it?
oh, sorry. These three standards were added in the presentation tonight. I apologize. If that's what you were asking, Commissioner Favero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the egress on the south and then the trail on the north, was that added? That's that added.
I don't know that it was added to the new packet. It was mentioned in the staff report that that is a requirement, but it wasn't necessarily added as a condition of approval. And so I put it in here just to make things clear, if that's easier for you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, commissioners, any other questions for staff? Any questions for the applicant on this item? Any discussion on the item? All right, well, if you guys are ready.
Chair, I'll make a motion to forward a positive recommendation to the county commission for item number LVW 101-424, consisting of 89 lots. Is that what's mentioned in here? Yeah, 89 lots located at approximately 800 south, 4700 west, per the following staff recommendations. One, payment of $2,500 per lot will be made to the Western Weber Parks District before the subdivision plat records. Two, an unconditional final approval letter from the culinary and secondary water provider will be submitted before final approval. Three, all improvements shall be installed, escrowed for, or a combination of both prior to final approval. Four, the development will need to annex into Central Weber Sewer District prior to final approval. Five, there will be a secondary egress secured on the south of this proposed development prior to final approval. And six, that a walking or trail path on the north side will go from the western edge of the proposed development all the way to 4700 west.
Can I interject with a comment? Is that okay? Your secondary egress requirement, does that mean you are only accepting secondary egress to the south from the developer?
Well, we have to have egress on both sides.
We have to have at least one egress.
I think she's just saying not specify, let them.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, we can, yeah, it doesn't have to be on the south. Just a secondary egress has to be secured prior to final approval. This recommendation is based on the following findings. The proposed subdivision conforms to the West Central Weber General Plan. Two, the proposed subdivision complies with applicable county ordinances.
All right, I got a motion. We got a second. Motion in a second. Any discussion? Commissioner Commissioner Clont's ain't here, so I normally start over there. Commissioner Novell,
Way better looking than me. Aye.
Commissioner Favero. Aye. Commissioner Andriotti.
Aye.
Commissioner McCormick.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. That passes. All right, next item. This is item 1.2, file number CUP 2024-14. A request for approval of a conditional use permit to operate a horse boarding business and commercial riding arena at approximately 3928 North, 3175 West. Director Grover.
As you look at this item, you'll be reviewing it under the conditional use standards. Those standards are put in place to help protect the neighborhood and help the development integrate into the area and reduce the impacts that a use could possibly have. As you look at this, you'll be looking at those standards and then also other elements in the land use code. Ms. Aydelotte's going to be presenting this item, and on this one, you'll be reviewing if it is meeting code or if it's not, and then you would apply certain conditions that are reasonable to this.
Sorry, bear with me for just a moment here. Okay. Is the commission familiar with where this is located? This is right up along the northern boundary of Weber County. Sandwiched in between Plain City. So this is located in a development with private roadways that are currently in there right now off of 4000 North. Just a little bit of background. This is located in the A1 zone on 5.15 acres. There is an existing home, there is an existing barn, and there is an existing covered riding arena on this lot, on this parcel. I want to also mention that there is also an existing conditional use permit tied to a commercial kennel operation. Typically, when we're looking at conditional use permits, part of our process for review is consulting with code enforcement to make sure that there aren't any violations that need to be addressed or any concerns from them for this proposed use, and code enforcement had none with this. The applicant is proposing what is called an equestrian training and stable facilities operation. This is listed as a conditional use in the A1 zone. What you see before you are both an aerial view of what the site looks like and how they're proposing to use that site. As you can see, this would be their pasture area. They've got some paddocks located here, a riding arena, and their barn. Let's see, the existing barn that's about 6,000 square feet currently has 11 stalls. The indoor riding arena, I think I saw some square footage for that, but I can't recall what it is off the top of my head. When we look at these types of conditional uses, we're looking at things that might potentially be a nuisance or need to be mitigated. We want to make sure that this kind of blends in with uses that surround the site, and this one does. This is in a lower density minimum, not a minimum of 5 acre area, but many of these lots are anywhere from 2 to 5 acres. So what is being proposed goes along with the general plan. There's nothing that conflicts with our ordinance. As far as conditional use standards, let me go through those real quick. So we look at setbacks, what they're proposing. Do they meet the minimum setbacks for the A1 zone for all of their structures? We have additional setbacks for where animals are kept. All of these structures meet those minimum setbacks. Landscaping requirements. When we look at the landscaping along this, they have more than their required area of what they need to do to landscape. They're also proposing overseeding and keeping the rest of the site as green as they can. As far as outdoor advertising goes, the applicant's not proposing any additional signage. I believe they have a parking sign on site for the existing commercial use, and that's it. The applicant has indicated in their narrative that while they have space for up to 10 parking spots, they don't anticipate more than a couple of cars on site at a time. However, I did receive communication from the applicant today, just wanting to make sure that they're not going to be tied to that small number of 2 parking spaces. They want to be able to accommodate up to 10 if they have the space for it. So I want to make sure that I mention that. Let's see if there's anything else in here. One thing I do want to point out, this is in Plain City's future land use plan, in their annexation plan. And this right here was taken from Plain City's website. What they're proposing, open space ag and low density residential, and how they're currently using it does not conflict with Plain City's plan. Wanted to make sure that that was brought up. If the planning commission decides that they're fine to approve this, there's nothing really that can't be mitigated. Then the next step for the applicant would be to acquire a business license, go through code enforcement, and they would go from there. Do you have any questions for myself? And I think the applicant may be here. They indicated they would be, but I'm not for sure. Okay.
Any questions for staff on this item? Any questions for the applicant? Any discussion? All right, then. Ready when you are.
Chair, I'll make a motion.
You ready for that? Yes, sir.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion for approval of file number CUP 2024-14, conditional use permit for an equestrian training and stable facilities located at 3928 North's. I messed up on the address there. Is it north or south? North. Okay, 3175 West, Ogden, Utah 84401. This recommendation for approval is subject to all review agency requirements and with the following conditions. 1, any signs related to this proposed use shall be submitted to Weber County Planning for approval. Application for land use permit shall be submitted. 2, if applicable, the Weber County building official shall inspect the agricultural building for related uses. 3, the owner applies for and keeps a valid business license. This recommendation is based on the following findings. 1, the proposed use conforms to the Western Weber General Plan. 2, the proposed use will protect and preserve agricultural property in Weber County. 3, the proposed use will not be detrimental to public health, safety, or welfare. 4, the proposed use will comply with applicable county ordinances. And 5, the proposed use will not deteriorate the environment or the general area to negatively impact surrounding properties and uses.
All right, I got a motion.
Chair, I'll second the motion.
Motion is second. Commissioner McCormick.
Aye.
Commissioner Andriotti.
Aye.
Commissioner Favero.
Aye.
Commissioner Neville.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. That passes. All right, next item. Now we're on to the legislative item. This is going to be item 2.1, filed GPA 2024-05, a public hearing and possible decision regarding an application to amend the future land use map of Western Weber General Plan and to redesignate area between 4700 West and the Weber River north to 12th Street from agricultural to rural residential, medium to large residential, mixed use residential, mixed use commercial, vehicle oriented commercial, and to make other future land use adjustments to better plan for future needs of the community. The primary purpose of the change is to change the plan for master plan development. Director Grover.
Commission, as you review this, you are just making a recommendation to the legislative body. You are not making any approvals at this time, just a recommendation. That recommendation is then forwarded on to them in work sessions typically, and then they decide when it would be scheduled for a public hearing, and then notices would be sent out on this. As you review this, we definitely encourage you to take public comment. You'll want to open and close it with a public hearing and make sure that you give the public the due time to voice their concerns that they may have on this. As you look at the general plan is only a guiding document. That's all the general plan is at this time. If law is set into place or ordinance, then that happens at a rezone. Right now, you're just looking at the general plan and how growth should happen out in that area. And just so you're aware, the general plan talks about us looking at updating the general plan at different times. And it was interesting today, I drove out to the area and just to kind of look at the high school and how things are happening around that area. And that may be an area that we may focus on in the next few years, that neighborhood area and how that integrates, because things have changed in that area since that high school has went into place. We're looking at traffic patterns with the general plan. We're looking at how residential relates to that. We're looking at safety for the kids and getting around. We're looking at pedestrian connectivity. And so those are things that we look at as neighborhoods change and evolve. This petition that you're looking at is applicant driven. This is not county driven by staff. So you'll want to make sure that you give the applicant due time to give any rebuttals or concerns that he may have. But Mr. Ewart is going to be presenting this item. And then after he presents, I'd recommend that you give the applicant due time and then open the public hearing so the public can give their comments and concerns. And then you want to make sure that you close the public hearing and bring it back to the Planning Commission for deliberation.
Thank you, Director Grover. Mr. Charlie.
Planning Commissioners, thank you. So as Rick mentioned, this is a request to change the general plan, to amend the general plan. There are a lot of different opportunities when we amend a general plan to look at a variety of different things in the plan and kind of question whether or not we initially got it right. Kind of hard when you create a general plan, it's hard to see into that future, 2 years down the road, 10 years down the road, or 50 years down the road. And so as the community changes, like Rick mentioned, it is important that your plans stay ahead of that change, not behind that change. If we wait for change to happen before we address the plan, we're going to be in the situation that the Uinta Highlands was in 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever that was, when they had a 50-year-old plan, and the plan didn't say anything, didn't reflect anything like what the Uinta Highlands is like now. So a lot of changes over time. They need to be reflected and they need to be addressed in your general plan. One of the things Rick mentioned is that the plan tells us how growth should be guided. And I think that kind of gives the idea that maybe growth is positive. I don't think when it comes to the plan, I don't think that growth is positive or negative. It just is. It happens. It's going to happen. And if we're not creating our policies in a way that shapes growth, then in our endeavors to fight growth, we will find that growth will go around us. As many other jurisdictions have. We've got a wonderful opportunity here in Western Weber with a lot of greenfield to actually shape the community the right way the first time. Over the course of my career, I've seen a lot of different communities change in time. And 20, 30, 40 years after the area started to grow up, you'll find some of the old timers around the water cooler saying, man, I wish we would have made some decisions differently back in the time. Had we known that this was going to be what the community was going to look like in the future. Part of me thinks when I look at some of these other communities that maybe you have to do it wrong in order to convince the public that there's a right way to do it. But when you do it wrong, 20, 30, 40 years down the road, when you want to try and go back and do it right, you're retrofitting everything that you didn't otherwise do. So a couple of things, just kind of getting into the basic principles of the plan. The basic principles of the plan is plan your street infrastructure and your pathway pedestrian infrastructure in a way that can support a wide variety of uses. One of the things that the planning industry kind of celebrates is the Plat of Zion that Salt Lake City was based off of, that Nauvoo was based off of, that Ogden and Provo were based off of. We at our, somebody said the other day, at our Plan Nerds conferences, they nationally, they talk about the Plat of Zion and how it's really shaped a wide variety of communities. And that's just based on these 660-foot wide blocks, which some planners will tell you if you go into some of the bigger cities that that's too big of a block, but it's served most of our communities pretty well. You compare that to some of the other suburbs of the different cities that when we were going through the general plan process, people kept saying, we don't want to be like that. Compare that to those, and you'll find in some of those suburbs, you just got dead end roads that, roads that go into cul-de-sacs, roads that don't actually lead you to where you're trying to get to. So you want to create your street infrastructure in a way that can support a variety of uses. Something might not stay agricultural all the time, might not stay residential all the time. At some point in the future, you might have some residential areas wanting to go commercial. And when I say wanting, I mean, what is the market demanding? What are people willing to buy? What are people willing to pay for? It's a supply and demand question. And when the supply and demand factor, when it shifts or when it flips in a particular area, you don't want to be behind the curve on having not having the infrastructure in place necessary to allow for that shift, that flip to happen pretty seamlessly. This is the project boundary, the applicant's project. As we looked at this, one of the very first things we said to the applicant was, well, we're probably going to want to look outside your red lines. Because if we just lift that project out of the general plan and plug something else back into it, it's just not going to match up very well. We talked to you guys and we talked to the county commissioners, and they said, yeah, let's look at kind of the broader area, at least 4,700 to the river to the west and 12th Street to the river to the north, or the Plain City. And so we did take a good close look at that area, compared it to what the applicant is hoping to eventually get a rezone for, which again, this is not a rezone. Nothing you do tonight gives the applicants any rights to do anything. It just gives the community, and it gives the applicant the understanding that maybe there's the next steps that can be taken. That said, we took what the applicant is hoping for in their end run, and plugged it into the ground here and tried to look at opportunities for good quality transitions between their property and other properties. As you look at some of this stuff that we're going to be looking over, here is the applicant's proposal. And it kind of ended at a pretty hard edge at 4,700 West and 12th Street, which is frankly exactly what we asked them to do. You'll see in mine that I kind of overflowed those roads just a little bit so that we can get consistent planning on both sides of the streets. The desire for this community, at least inside the applicant's property boundaries, and their property boundaries are in black. Let's see if I can get that bigger. Just go. Ooh. I guess we'll do it that way. So the black boundaries that you kind of see there are the applicant's property. Inside of that, you'll see a variety of mixture of uses. So you've got mixed use commercial. That's this kind of reddish color here. You've got vehicle oriented commercial, which is the lighter red/pink color. And so you've got maybe some walkable village nodes in these locations here. Villages meaning street oriented commercial with possible residential above, right up to the street, really nice walkable community. And then beyond that, the yellow and the orange overlap is just a variety of residential uses, from large lot residential all the way down to small residential or even multiple units on a lot. As you travel northward, you can kind of see their property boundaries as well, and you see how it kind of transitions to a lighter intensity of uses as you head to the north. When we looked at that, we wanted to make sure, as we were looking outside of the applicant's boundaries, that neighboring landowners have the opportunity to do what they want to do on their property, or have potential to develop the property as well, should they choose to do it. Neighbors who don't want to develop their property, they've got full control over that. They'll remain in the agricultural zone. None of these changes change anybody else's zones at all. This is just a general plan change. When it comes time to look at a rezone for this property, the rezone will be for the property. The rest of the properties will stay in the agricultural zones until each landowner wants to be rezoned. So what that means is that everybody still gets to do what they're doing now, but also everybody has at least one small step towards a different use in the future. And very likely a higher dollar value for their property. Should they choose to develop in the future. So looking at staff's map, tried to simplify just a little bit. Went to both sides of 4700. So the orange stands for mixed residential. Mixed residential, the general plan says it's market demand residential. Now, one thing that often gets confused is if the general plan says mixed residential, that means they automatically get it, right? It doesn't. You have to create a zone that, and apply a zone to the property that accommodates for that use. So no, again, like I said before, no entitlements are being transferred or conveyed if this map amendment does get approved. That'll come in the next step, in the recent step. What that means is that the flexibility in applying the map is your flexibility, and it's the county commissioner's flexibility. Determining the right time, the right place, the right configuration of land uses is all up to you guys when it comes to each rezone. Somebody comes in and asks for a rezone, you can say, the map does show that, but we don't think it's the right time. We think that the market's not ready. We think that it's not the right place. Maybe it needs to be moved over a little bit. So you don't have to rezone property just because these maps change. Okay. Just looking at some of these general changes that are outside of what the applicant has proposed. 900 South, right now, 900 South through the 4700 West intersection. That's kind of planned to be the future main street for that community. You got the school right on it. You got some higher density uses that are planned right next to it. And there's a variety of development opportunities that are coming in there. Between 900 and 12th Street, you could kind of see maybe one block right there of mixed use commercial and residential uses. That 900, I think, would make a very nice connection into another village node, and having the opportunity for that street connectivity, I think, is going to be important, especially when we're trying to complement one village node to another village node. These villages, they're small villages. We're talking about neighborhood commercial. You're not looking at big retail types of commercial uses. This is mostly just to support the development that's happening in these areas. Neighborhood commercial, support the development in the area. Regional commercial is drawing people in from outside. And none of this is regional commercial. Got a couple of slides you could look at where it toggle between the two. So this is what the current general plan looks like. Colors still aren't great, but oh, that one's better. So the applicant's property in question is right in this area here. So as we toggle back and forth, you can see just a few adjustments were made. I actually had a better hill shade, so base map where I could make better adjustments that are quite a bit more accurate to what is actually out there right now. So that's the majority of the shifts you see there. But then those colors represent something different. Like I mentioned before, the orange mixed residential, what is the market asking for? Is the market asking for single family? They can come and ask for it. Is the market asking for multifamily? They can come and ask for it. I think it's going to be hard pressed to make a good argument for a lot of multifamily out there, but definitely some smaller single family lots. This is probably the right place for it if we're looking for places for it. With that said, we've got a lot in the general plan that provides some level of support for this change. Interesting thing is the general plan sets up the policy, right? What is it that we want to see for the future? This is the guiding document. When we're amending the general plan, we don't have a different map to show us how to amend a general plan. We don't have a different document to say this is how you amend a general plan. So quite a bit of latitude here, but we definitely don't want to amend the plan in a way that would conflict with the plan. So there's quite a bit of support in the general plan for making frequent changes. Whether or not the support is for this type of development or this type of change, That's up to you guys, and that's up to the county commissioners ultimately. And that's one of the reasons why public hearings are required whenever you make these kinds of changes. But whether or not changes should occur is definitely something that we should be anticipating on a regular basis. Let me open one other document here. Just highlighted a little section here that I thought was pretty important. This is just guidance on how to use the plan. And this is very similar to what Rick said. A general plan is not intended to be regulatory and is not a land use law like zoning or development codes. Instead, the plan is an advisory document intended to help county leadership in their decision-making responsibilities. The plan helps guide the creation of ordinances and programs that should be implemented to guide population growth toward a common set of goals. And because changes over time are often affected by little incremental decisions, the plan also offers a lens through which these decisions should be viewed. When we're looking at that, we know that plans are made to be changed. They're made to guide, but they also, we'd be foolish not to change them when the circumstances warranted. When I look at a general plan, I think of it kind of like my finances. I actually might have said this in when we were adopting the general plan. I have a long-term goal of retiring and being a billionaire. Let's just say that's my goal. And every single decision I make every day, every time I pull my wallet out, that affects my goal. Right now, also where I work and how I work affects my goal. And I'm not doing so well on some of those goals right now and becoming a billionaire by the time I retire. But you kind of get the point. If I make different decisions that lead to a general direction, a long-term direction that we want to move towards, that's key in trying to get to your final outcome. And that is all a plan does. Your financial plan, your land use plan, that's it. When we look at the planning documents, the next thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is a little bit about the green space corridor. We do talk about the Emerald Necklace in the plan as a community asset, community amenity. The applicant has committed to preserving parts of the Emerald Necklace, but they're also looking outside of the Emerald Necklace. They're looking along areas that may not be best for development now, but it might be great for long-term open space preservation and walking trails, etc. So deviating from how the plan shows the Emerald Necklace to how the applicant's asking for it to be shown, again, up to you guys on your in your discretionary decision making. I just wanted to show just a little focus on that 4700 West, 900 South, 12th Street kind of area. I had a phone call from someone who lived, I'm just going to say along this, actually it was along, well, let's just say along this dashed line here, a little while back, and they said, hey, you're planning a road possibly going through my property. Maybe we can bounce that up to the section line, which is almost a perfect block distance from 12th Street. And so we thought, that might be kind of nice to offer that to that landowner. Most of the landowners who have engaged with us and have asked for tweaks and adjustments, we've been able to massage the applicant's map to get those those other landowners a little closer to what they want. I mean, I think there's a few landowners who we are working with who are thinking, no development would be better. But one particular landowner, and I put this in the staff report, said, if it's going to be development, though, this is what the applicant is asking for is way better than just 10-acre subdivision at a time. And this actually creates a community, whereas you just do one 10-acre subdivision every year to build out. You're not creating a community, you're just creating suburbs. This is the street regulating plan for that 4700 and 12th Street, 900 South corridor. This is the one we matched the new proposal off of. But you can see the red streets, they stand for mixed commercial. The dark orange is multifamily. The lighter orange is single family attached. And then the the darker yellows go into single family detached, smaller lots. And then the really light yellows on the far outside is medium to large lot residential. Okay, in your staff report, and this is just looking for opportunities to be efficient despite the fact that government is rarely efficient. Sometimes we try. And oftentimes we're not efficient for a reason, because there is a process that has to happen to make sure that the public's interest is taken care of. So I thought maybe this would be a good opportunity to look at the interchange, the future corridor interchange of West Weaver Corridor down on 12th Street, and look at some other opportunities there. You can choose to forward a recommendation to the county commission if you're in favor of it, forward it with the changes to this corridor, including a little bit more down the 900 South corridor, just mixed residential, not any kind of commercial there. If you'd like to see these, feel free to put in your recommendation. If you don't, just tell us to focus on what the applicant is asking for, and these things can run a different process. So the recommendation I'm giving you guys is it's almost neutral. I think it'd be a little bit of a shame to pass up an opportunity to get a development like this. And one of the things that we're not seeing here is that development style. And that's because those kind of details come at a rezone. But I have had the opportunity, one of the commissioners and I went out to Tennessee to look at the development that this applicant wants to model this the requested development off of. And it was amazing how one developer chose to take a few hundred acres of land and turn it into a community, a real community, not suburbia. It was actually pretty refreshing to see. The only reason I have a job is because we have a variety of developers piecing out properties, 10 acres at a time, and I got to figure out how do we stitch them together. When you have one applicant coming in with a few hundred acres looking to do something that actually creates community, it's a great opportunity. That said, this isn't my community, this is your community. And so it's important that you guys have a say in that, and that you guys feel comfortable with the idea in order to make that recommendation to the county commission. Let's see. Their proposed project does follow best industry practices in terms of good quality community design. I am a little concerned. We do see other properties in the area, 20 and 40 acres, just going one piece at a time. And as great as they are, they don't actually implement all the great mysterious parts of the general plan that actually create that long-term community effect. And I think looking at a project like this would actually create that long-term community effect. And lastly, it's probably really important to note, even if you do pass a positive recommendation and the county commissioners do vote in favor of the plan adjustment, nothing happens until that rezone comes. And what that means is we've got a lot of time between now and then to work out the details, figure out how that community shape plays out in the future. Or you don't rezone for 20 years. That's still a possibility, even if you pass this idea today. And again, it's just an idea. A big project in this area is likely to take quite a bit of time, 20, 30, 40 years. And so despite some of the fears of losing huge acreages of farmland, it's going to take a while for that to build out. It would be nice to have a roadmap to follow on how that build out should occur. So I think I touched off the notes that I meant to touch on. Do you guys have any questions for me or desire for me to expand on anything?
Questions or clarifications?
No, it's a great question, and it's not one that is answerable right now. Mostly because in those mixed residential areas, the general plan doesn't define how much density should go there. It tells an applicant to come to the county, propose a development, and have the planning commission and the county commission take a good look at that and determine whether or not it's something that's worth using or worth implementing. So the developer kind of can come with a number in mind and ask, and you guys can say, that's too high. Or you can say, that's not high enough, go a little more. So I can't give you a definitive answer on density, but it will increase it.
If we we pass this on. We actually open.
Yep, the legislative body has another public hearing before they make the adoption. Okay, great questions. Any others?
I have one quick question, Charlie. Early, I don't know if it was this proposal that we've talked about or previous ones, but there was mentioned at one point that if this did get approved and this developer ended up bailing out, that there would be something in the language to where it didn't hold true. Is that true for the general plan, or would that just be during the rezone?
No, well, because this is just a guiding document, nobody's bound by it. The developers and you guys aren't bound by it. However, there is language in your model motion. It's the last sentence there, basically says the effective date of these proposed amendments should be dependent on the adoption of a development agreement and rezone of the applicant's property. So if you took the model motion, that would already be included in it. I definitely see the concern of having a big master plan community pre-planned out and not actually having an applicant that we can trust to actually execute it. So I think it's good to hang it on that future development agreement and rezone.
All right, any other questions for staff? Okay, we will invite the applicant. Jeff or Geneva?
Commissioner, thanks for entertaining this. My name is Jeff Beck. I'm with a company called Black Pine, and I think a big reason why I'm here today is I've been studying traditional neighborhood development for a really long time. We're implementing it in different areas along the Wasatch Front, but have rarely found a municipality that articulates the desire to have a project like this. Obviously, we're amending the general plan to accommodate it, but basically what your general plan articulates is you want smart growth and not suburban sprawl. And if you look at the development patterns along the Wasatch Front, that's mostly what we're getting is suburban sprawl. And if you look at the development patterns in Utah over the last 50, 70 years, ever since World War II, it became very much Euclidean zoning. It was residential over here, commercial over there, industrial over here. And it was centered around automobiles. So everywhere you go along the Wasatch Front, it's very convenient for cars. It's not super convenient for people. And what a traditional neighborhood development does is it brings it back to how towns and cities used to be built, which were around people. And that's really what we're interested in bringing. And when you go to a place that's built around people, you create community. And at the heart of it, that's what we're trying to do, is to create community. And when you create community, people want to be there. And people that are young and people that are old, these places allow people to age in place. You don't have to, lose your car and then get sent to a rest home, because you can walk to things. You can walk to stores and you can walk along paths that are good for your health. But anyway, one of the things that I think is important to note is in your general plan, it says this: working with landowners to master plan large swaths of land, provide community benefits that due to the economy of scale cannot usually be realized for smaller subdivisions. The county should encourage master plan communities that create a distinct sense of place and provide all the stages of life and family situations. And I think that's what we're hoping to accomplish with this amendment and the potential rezone. Is it's really difficult to create this type of community and development 1 10 or 20 acre piece at a time. You really need a large swath of land. And so as much as it feels like this is a change to the general plan, I actually think this is one of the ways you actually enact the plan that you've created, which is to create a place that people want to be. So we're hopeful that we get a positive recommendation, and appreciate your time.
Any questions for the applicant? Okay. Thanks, Jeff. All right, we will now, as we get ready to go into our public hearing. When you come up, if you don't mind stating your name and address for the record, and if you wouldn't mind, just in the interest of time, we got a big crowd here tonight, just limit your comments to 3 minutes. We won't have a timer on you, and we're not gonna shut you down right when you hit 3 minutes, but just if you wouldn't mind being respectful of their time. With that, commissioners, I'm ready for a motion to open a public hearing on this item.
Chair, I'll make a motion to open public hearing.
Got a motion? Do I get a second?
Second.
All those Lots.
Wayne beat me.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, so just one more thing before we kick it off. Typically, I mean, how this works, you'll come up, state your comments. It's not kind of a back and forth dialogue. It's just, we'll be taking notes. Staff will be taking notes. The developer or the applicant might be taking some notes as well to field questions after the public hearings come to a close. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started.
It's always the first person that's the hardest to get up here.
My name is Melissa Lowe. I live at 1085 North, 4700 West, right on the Weaver River. I came to the hearing on the 8th last month, and I was really bothered by several of the things that were being said there. So I wanted to voice some of them. I took some notes down.
Melissa, I'm sorry to interrupt. That mic is really hard for other to
Can you
get.
hear me there?
Yeah, there you go. Just so the people in the back can hear you. Thank you.
Yes. So someone had said that the countryside had been cannibalized other communities to live in the area based on having large plots of land and homes on them rather than like condensed housing. In our opinion, living out in the country, that's the exact opposite. It's what is happening to us right now by this idea of this build. There's several people saying that the country currently doesn't have community because they live so far apart, and that's the whole idea, is building community with this stuff. But I would implore you to listen to a song called Try That in a Small Town, because that is what our community is about currently. We live, like I said, directly on the Weaver River. So under our understanding, there is trying to become public domain across the river that we live on, which would be obviously stealing and absorbing our current land in our backyard where we have small children living. We've already had a problem with the open border and having illegals coming in, and we've had people show up to our land trying to steal our animals to take them and eat them. I can't imagine what's going to happen when you have it open along that whole riverbank to have people freely publicly walk in the background in our backyard with small children growing up there. It's just wrong. So that's a large concern of mine. I also feel that it is, it's just absolutely, this is a nice plan, but it's not for the right area. There is enough land across areas that we should be keeping the country. It is fading fast, and we have a great community. We have open lands, we have farming lands, and that is where it should be kept. And that's how I humbly feel. I also, regardless of who may agree or disagree, I am a Christian, and I would like to say a prayer. Dear Lord, I pray that you will keep these people from infiltrating the country community for their personal gain under the guise of building community. I pray that you would bring light, that this infiltration would bring extreme taxation to those with larger amounts of land, which would inevitably tax those that have worked for their lands and lived on these lands their whole lives, to the point that you would tax them out of their lands and their homes. I pray that they would reflect on the golden rule of treating others as you would want to be treated, and that you would acknowledge that they would not be pleased with the government absorbing and stealing land that you own and relabeling it to be public domain. I pray that you would guide them to no longer seek monetary rewards in this temporary life, but instead turn to you, Lord, and work towards riches with you in the next, as tomorrow is promised to no one. Please protect the community, the country community, Lord, the community that seeks to please you and their neighbors as you've told us to do. The people that find value in prayer, hard work, farming their lands and gardens, and not in technological advancements that distract the rest of the world from what holds true value, Lord, you. your peace and light, prayer, gratitude for the endless blessings you've gifted us, for our families and loved ones that you shield and protect, the peace and strength you give us through hard times so that we may have fortitude through all that we have no control over. Please protect the country community, Lord. Please protect these lands by keeping the country. I pray these things in Jesus' name, my dear Christ, Lord and Savior. Amen. Thanks for your time.
Good evening. My name is John DiGiorgio. I live at 5306 West, 1600 South in West Weber. I'm not for or against this idea, but what is UDOT's time frame of planning on 4700 and 12th Street going east? Because we're talking about some significant changes to the land, and 4700 is basically a cow trail. And it's not a whole lot better going up 12th Street. Have you guys been in contact with UDOT? Do they have any time frame, excuse me, of doing some improvements on them roads?
Well, address your question again.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Jessica Manning and I live at 1085 North, 4700 West. I'm just here because I have heard from the last meeting as well. But yeah, they're saying right now that you can keep your land and do with your land as you want. But we know that as soon as big population grows out in the country, people start complaining about tractor lights, the smell of manure, and you can't continue to farm the way we love farming. We love the country. That's why we moved out there. My family does not have any roots on my side of the family. My husband's family has been there for over 100 years. Some of them helped found the West Weber community, and it is a wonderful, wonderful place to live. This type of stuff completely disrupts that way of life. Our children will have no way of ever having the opportunities that the country people have had for generations when you force this type of growth. It might be the committee's plan for West Weber. It is not West Weber community's plan for West Weber. We have been flourishing and neighbor helping neighbor, trying to be self-sufficient for generations. And that is how we would love it to continue. Thank you.
Thanks. Any further comments on this item? Oh. Can you be faster?
Wait for everyone else.
My name's Kenny McFarland. I live at 5102 West, 1150 South. I just want to put in perspective a little bit, some things I've been thinking about today and put in perspective for both me and for the commission to consider as we go forward with this. I don't know exactly the population of West Weber today. I'm going to assume somewhere around 2,000 people possibly. With some things coming, you know, that would double the size of the population in our community. Some things coming out west, there would be a lot more traffic. I'm not opposed to growth, especially smart growth, and I'm very grateful for a commission that takes the time to try to do this the right way. But I do think that, as Charlie mentioned earlier, there's a reason that things happen slowly in government, and it's so that that things that can happen democratically. And through this process, I think it's very important to consider the people that currently live in these communities and make sure that we are mindful of those people that have struggled to keep the community together, and the roads and the ditches and the canals. With all of these changes coming in, the infrastructure is going to have a massive change. And I know that UDOT is very comfortable with waiting until there's problems to make changes to those problems, and that's just how they are. But I would ask, and I know this doesn't fall under the commission, but I would ask that the county that's also here tonight, if they could please, this is this will be an unprecedented type of community in Western Weber County. Like we said before, it's usually 10 and 20 acre subdivisions. And the strain on infrastructure is fairly small in that type of a situation. When we go to, large industrial plants and large communities, like I said, I'm not necessarily opposed to that. People can do what they want when they own the land, as long as it falls under the law. But we need to just make sure that that infrastructure is not affecting the people that currently live there. I have a farm on 12th Street, and we plan on farming there for a lot of years. And I want to make sure that we can continue to do that. I would also say that Legacy Highway or the West Weaver corridor should be a huge priority for the county, and not wait for UDOT to push that forward. That should be brought up on a monthly basis, because with all of the changes, 12th Street cannot safely, we basically will not be able to exist as a farm on 12th Street if all of this happens and Legacy Highway doesn't come through. So in these changes that we're talking about tonight, we're not talking about a normal change. This is an unprecedented change for our area. I know this has happened in other places, but we may have to look at things differently going forward. And it might be okay to take this slow to make sure the infrastructure can take care of the needs of the people that currently live there. So thank you.
Hello, my name is Janae Anglin. I live on 332 North, 4700 West in West Weber. And I live directly across from a lot of the land that they actually farm. And I actually second a lot of what Kenny just said. In fact, right where I live is a main spot that the farmers go in and out of. My big concern is, yes, I understand that there is growth needed, and it is these people's land that they want to sell, and growth is going to happen regardless of us community members want it or not. But to subdivide and split to quarter-acre lots, that is no longer a farming or a small, that isn't really feasible for our area. That's going to turn us into a city. Look downtown Ogden, we have enough apartment buildings, plenty of other places that are cities. What is it going to do to the remaining farmers out there? We have 2 other farmers that still continue to milk their cows and grow their hay farms. How are they going to continue to put their tractors and grow their hay and drive up and down these roads? Actually, this year already on 4700, May 16th, I was turning in my house, the first wreck I've ever been in. I'm 55 years old. I was hit by a high school student. I was completely stopped. He hit me, was texting and driving, did not even slow down, and hit me doing over 50 miles an hour. I have seen, it's amazing what I have on my cameras. If we allow even more growth, how are these farmers that remain out there going to be able to continue to farm? It just makes me sick to my stomach. It's going to put these other farmers completely out of business. And where are we going to get our milk? How are we going to sustain our life out there? There's just no way. And I do agree, there is growth that is needed, but can't we just make it be like half-acre lots? I mean, what else? There has to be another way. I think this aggressive of a plan is just too much. But anyway, that's just my thought, what I wanted to share with you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jody Manning. I live in 1021 North 4700 West. When I came to the meeting last month, the little pictures and everything in the land that the people own did not show ours, but these last pictures showed our property being involved in this whole thing, all the way to the north end of the river. And that's where our property is. And I agree with what Dylan or Jessica said and what all the farmers and everything that's involved there. But another aspect that people need to think about is the wildlife that is along that river. The developer was talking about having houses go right up to the river's edge and having that. Well, that takes away, there's bald eagles that are down there every winter. I don't know if people are aware of that, but they are nesting and they're all along there. There's wood ducks, there's pelicans, there's all kinds of things along the river. That is another thing to consider. That if you take that away, you give these guys permission to put houses there and then put walkways there. You know, people seem to care about animals more than people. So I wanted to throw that part in there because it seems like people listen to that instead of the effect of how it takes away our country life when you change it so dramatically. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Jill Hipwell, 585 South, 3600 West. I went to the workshop. I'm not totally against this thing, but the one thing that's scaring me now is with the Valley incorporating, we're the only place all these developers are going to run. And so if we're able to put a big subdivision like that out here, is it going to open it up to make it easier for everybody else to do it? And that's kind of my basic concern. And the infrastructure, they're right. We've got to do something with 4700 and 12th Street. Thanks.
Commissioners, I'm Kerry Gibson. My address is 5454 West, 1150 South. Right next door to a significant portion of this development. I just want to share a few thoughts, both with the community and with the commission, regarding what I believe a general plan is supposed to do for us. To me, I've heard it referred to here several times today and in the last few months as just a recommendation, something that's kind of out there as a recommendation. And I think that's a gross mischaracterization. I think it is meant to be a guiding document. It's meant to be something that is a protection. It's a protection on both sides. It's a protection for property rights, that an individual knows that if they come forward with a proposal on their private property that meets the general plan and the zoning requirements, that they can't be hindered from using their property to the highest and best use under that general plan. It's also a protection for the community. Frankly, it's the only opportunity for a community to truly be involved in how they want their community to look. You could look at Marriott Slaterville, for instance. They've selected certain areas where they just simply are not going to have high density housing. And it looks a lot different just across the river to the east of us because of those decisions. And then they have an area in town where there is a city, and it makes sense for that because there's a freeway running through it. And so the community is able to protect themselves knowing that if they purchase a property or they own a property that's in an area that's meant to be agricultural, that they can have a reasonable expectation that that agricultural area is going to be maintained as agricultural, that it's not going to be something where we're going to have residential commercial mix. That was not, in my opinion, part of the reason why this general plan was implemented in its current form. Relatively speaking, in terms of how long these plans really last and really have been maintained, the reality is the ink is barely dry on this one.
We had a very, very robust public process just a few years ago where the community came together and voiced their opinions on what they wanted their community to look like. And the fact that we're sitting here just a few years later with a major change, and again, this is not, I've heard it referred to, this may be some tweaks here and there. This is a major, major change that's going to change the landscape of our community for a long, long time. And I think what we do here, as was mentioned, will affect other areas within the community. And I just think it's wrong to, spot zone. I think it's wrong to pick out an area, even if it's a big property owner like it is in this particular case, and say, you know, we're just going to look at this because it's a big property, and we're going to pick this off one by one by one. What that does is it takes the voice of the community out of this process. And I've got to share with you, someone referred to it, I'm going to repeat it. I couldn't have been more disappointed as I sat and listened to the joint session a month or so ago, when I heard commissioners, both county commissioners and planning commissioners, go around the room and express their opinions on this, that they had basically made up their minds that they felt like it was great for our community. Many of them said, well, it's not great. I wouldn't want to live there, but it seems pretty good in this area. I can just tell you, that process is backwards. For a general plan amendment like this, with this kind of impact, there should be a robust public process where these people can be heard, how they want their community to look. Because once this moves forward and changes as a general plan, then there is a new property right created. And now anything under that general plan is allowed going forward. And that takes away the opportunity for them to have a voice. So I think this has gone way too fast. I think it's gone way too far without the community having an opportunity to participate. And I'll be honest, I'm not shocked that, I mean, it's a good turnout here today, but I'm not really shocked. It should be 5 times this much, because that's the kind of frustration that is out there in this community. But I'm telling you, they've heard the stories of going around the room and hearing people say, this is a great idea. And they believe that this is a done deal because of the developer that is doing it, and the way that it's been handled to this point. They've heard the stories of the fact that their input was not taken all the way along the way in this process, that this has moved forward without them, and they are gutted and heartbroken. And that's where we are today. So I just hope that, you know, when I hear things like it would be a shame to pass up a great opportunity like this, I say, let's protect property rights. Let's protect everyone's right to use their property the way they think that it should be used, as defined in the general plan. There are plenty of ways to build a community the way that we can all be proud of, without substantially increasing the density to this level. And again, that's the frustration, is that we don't even know what that density looks like, but we know that it's much different than what is currently allowed in this general plan. I can get into a whole bunch of details about this particular property because I've lived there and farmed it my whole life. And it makes no sense to have a city that is basically below sea level. And that's what it is right here. This property, a major portion of it is underwater multiple times in any given decade. There are reasons why lower density agricultural properties were envisioned as part of the general plan process for this property, because you can go in and build up a certain area, but you can't really just go in and build up an entire city where the water level is higher than the property level throughout the entire property, or a significant portion of it. So I just hope, as our representatives, that you're very careful in how you process this and recommend this to the county commission, because frankly, they do take your opinion. They hear you, and having served in that role, I want to know what my planning commissioners truly believe and truly feel. And I hope you, as part of that recommending process, will consider
how your constituents feel as well, as they're trying to work through something that they think is going to change their lives truly forever. Thank you.
Any further comments on this item?
Sorry, I'll be quick. My name is Brian O'Pikins. I live at 668 North, 4700 West in West Weber. Within the last 10 years, I would have been on the opposite side of this, begging that I was able to get my house built in Weber County. And having said that, I know that there are others that are doing the same thing now. There's not enough housing in Weber County to house people. I'm not saying that I'm for or against the development of this particular property. I think that needs to fall within the property owner's rights. They have the right to do with their property what they want. But as a younger person that's trying to raise a family in this community, I will say that that there does need to be more housing and more opportunity for individuals in our area to have that opportunity to be here. I would also go as far as to say that many of the people that have voiced concerns tonight haven't even lived in their homes in the last 10 years. They've moved here, they've built new homes, and they would have been like me 10 years ago, arguing with the commission to build the home in that area. So that's something to consider with the community as it grows. We do need to have more housing, more opportunity for people to have that lifestyle that we all cherish. Will it be the same? Most likely not, but it will be similar, and those values can still be part of the community and part of the process, as long as moving forward, like Carrie was saying, that we do implement the community and the landowner and work together to develop something that we all want to have. So that's it. Thanks.
All right, now is there any further comments? You can't speak from the, thank you. No, you can't come back up. You already spoke, so, but we appreciate the recognition. Oh. Okay. With that, I'm ready for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Got a motion? Do I got a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we are now out of the public hearing. And I'm just gonna look at a few of these notes I have, and there's only probably one that I can address intelligently, and I don't even know if it'll be intelligently, but your question, Mr. DeGiorgio, UDOT is in the process of in design right now to widen 12th Street from 4700 West to the River Bridge. I don't know why they're leaving a little chunk out between the River Bridge and the widened part at there at the Anthill at 1900 West, but that is in design, and I think it goes to construction in 2026. But yes, traffic is an issue out there. I know there was a comment made about trying to get the county and the state to secure the area for the West Weber corridor as it shows on our general plan. That was also, Charlie kind of mentioned some other areas that were kind of wrapped into this, but it's my opinion that we focus on the applicant's proposal here, and we can address those other areas at a later time. But I don't want to see a big change. You know, I have concerns changing an area for that corridor when we don't even know that corridor is coming, or if that's the exact place the corridor is coming. So I do echo the comments that was made tonight. I would love to see more pressure put on the state, and I know some commissioners have so far, trying to put some pressure on them to lock in that West Weber corridor area, just because I think it's tough to plan without that, knowing where that is going to be. But commissioners, you got any other comments on questions that was brought up tonight, or do we want to invite the applicant up?
Hear from the applicant. I don't know how.
Got anything to add, Jit?
I don't know if I have much to add other than this is going to come across probably very hollow. I understand why people wouldn't want something to change. I understand why living around a farm community, I get that. And I think the thing that I've said, and I respect this process. I respect everyone that came up here and voiced opposition. That's how government works, and I think they have the right to do that. And I have no problem. I'd shake all their hands and thank them for their comments. The first agenda item tonight for you guys was a subdivision that got approved. And that's the type of stuff that's coming. And nothing to knock on that subdivision, but when you're doing small parcels at a time, you can't give open space. You can't think about how it impacts the human experience. You're just trying to maximize yield of units. And the type of development we're hoping to bring here is not that. It's really hard to do. It's not easy. It takes a lot of thought, and there's a lot of restrictions around what we're trying to do. As it relates to, thinking that this thing was going to be open space forever. Personally, I just feel like you're benefiting off someone else's property and upset that they want to do something different with it. And I think those folks have the right to leave their lands open forever. But it seems tough to be wanting other people to do that same thing. And so I would just say I'm grateful for this process. Obviously, I'm biased and hope that there's a positive recommendation, but I appreciate your consideration again.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So, and maybe it ties in a little bit to Director Grover as well, but to Ms. Lowe's comment, there's no public domain or any of that going in to try and take any other area through this to try and take the river corridor, correct? That'll come as development comes and things change to the areas when those areas will come through.
Correct.
Okay. That's what I thought, but I just wanted to double check on that. And I know generally at this state of the game, for a general plan change, at least by what county ordinance requires, is the infrastructure really isn't a huge part of that. It's just that areas can serve it. But to address Mr. McFarland's, maybe, I know there's some infrastructure coming in, or I've heard of because of the Promontory Commerce Center coming in. Maybe could you just give a little brief update of what the infrastructure is coming tied to that and how it could relate to your project? Do you have any of that information?
Well, yeah. So the Promontory Commerce Center, which is west of the river, industrial park, part of the inland port, is currently, there's plans on getting the infrastructure all the way down to that corridor, both in terms of road widening and utility infrastructure. So that's in the works. I know that there's a large section of 12th Street that's being improved next year. So in relation to Kenny's question, I think that infrastructure is already being planned and implemented.
Okay. As I look through this, I think that's any other questions, commissioners?
I think I have a follow-up for your question on the river corridor. So I just want to make sure I'm clear, and maybe this isn't for you, Jeff, it might be for Director Grover, but access to the river is already allowed, correct? Like, is that something Rick?
As far as the private property right now, they'd have to obtain easements.
But as far as
to go
accessing the
across.
river itself, being on the river is already allowed, right? This
Depends
development
on
wouldn't
where they're
change.
going to be accessing from the river.
So
Because
you can get in a boat.
So if it's
go down the
from,
river.
yeah, so if you get in a boat from public property, you can still access and be
Yes,
behind
you-
all these people's property
You
already.
can.
So this development would change that to where they would be able to access private property more?
So
Easements, is that what?
on this development, there would still be access points that they would have to acquire to allow for that, or the developer would have to grant those access rights to the public. Just like right now, there's private property that abuts that, and in order to access the river from those private property, you'd have to obtain easements.
Right, okay.
And this would be no different.
So it would tie in similar, that's what, as Charlie's slide there, kind of tying back to the Emerald Necklace, it would open that river area through this applicant's property to access the river through those.
So that more
creeks.
people will be on the river, but not on the other private properties.
That's the way I understand it.
Correct. But at the same time, you know, the individual who talked about wildlife and things like that, you know, those are things that you'd have to balance out if you're looking at the rezone element of how you're going to preserve that, what types of buffers you'd put in place, things like that, as when you get to that point, if we get to that point.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
There isn't anybody that spoke tonight that was more or less negative towards it, that I don't agree with. However, our founding fathers in their wisdom gave us the rights to private ownership. And we had that for decades and hundreds of years until we got government in. And then government started crushing people's plans. And for a good reason. It needed to happen because there's more people. However, I'm still with the founding fathers that we do have the rights to. From what I've seen of this development, it's organized. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. And I've seen projects go that are big like this, and they're somewhere between 25 and 35 years before they're done. It's not going to be thrust upon you. And for that reason.
Any other questions for the applicant? We can let him sit down.
I got a comment, Mr. Chairman. I've lived out in this country for 80 years. I'm 80 years old. Right now, I think I'm 120. I hunted on that river before your houses was anywhere near there. Part of my livelihood and the things I like to do was gone right there. And I'm not really all that upset about it. That's the way things are. You look around out there in Warren, West Weber. It was all open space. Warren probably had one time when I first built my home there might have been 70 houses. And there's more houses now, and they're coming. It's a future. As far as farming goes, all we have to do is see what we've seen in the paper over at Farmers Grain. Where is that? When I grew up, there was a canning factory almost in every community. Where are they? Most farmers had a cash crop. It was 12 to 16 head of cows that went to Cream Weber Dairy. Where is that? Gone. We have wonderful farms out there. Most farms, from what I read, last about 4 generations. I think this property might have lasted a little longer than that, but they all come to an end. And there's a lot of property there. These people farmed that property. Their dad farmed that property. Their dad's dad farmed that property. They took care of it the best they could. Down that road, farming is an expensive business, especially the dairy business. It is not cheap. It's hard to do. Anybody here volunteer to go milk their cows? Don't think so. Maybe this guy right here. If you got gray hair, you know what it's like to work on these places. But to make a long story short, they've taken care of this property and they have some rights for that property. And in my mind, they have the rights to get the best deal that they can get. It's a fact of life. It's our system. And I'm happy with the general plan that we have because we'd be changing that thing, making a new one every year. The last 2 years, we've seen rapid growth. We had the governor over in Plain City talking about a project that we passed on for middle income housing. That's the future. And so I guess what my point is, if the farmer, if he's going to survive, the farmer has to do it. And we all come to that point. We have a little farm. We're hanging on to it, but there's 9 kids involved in that after me and my brothers die. What do you think's going to happen then? The lawyers will get rich. And so I think that it's a painful process. It's painful for me to watch it. These farms going down. The one right to the south of me, big dairy. They've been in the dairy business forever. Were they? They're gone. It's an expensive business. And having said that, I would just like to remind people that our communities out there are full of good people. I love the people of my community. And I'll be first one to say, I love them and I don't go to church. I love these people. I grew up with them. I know them. And with that, when the end comes, if they're still farming, I think that they have the absolute right to get the best deal for the property. That's our system. And having said that, I'd just like to reiterate one thing. A farmer's the person that makes it survive. It isn't us zoning this or that. It's a cruel. Zoning out something like this is cruel. And so my 2 bits is if we go down this road, we do it so it doesn't look like Syracuse. We don't need more checkerboards. What we need is communities where your kids can run free on the bikes like I did. And this community is off the beaten path. I think it's a great place for a community. I think it's a greater place for a dairy farm. It's not there now. And so I think we ought to go down this road in the process and see what we can come up with. I think we've got a developer that's got some great credentials. I think the things that what I've seen, I like the way it looks. I don't know how the developer feels. I like the 300-foot corridor on the side of the river. That's where the wildlife can go. That's where your kids can go play. The only thing I say about it, I don't want that 300-foot buffer filled up with kochia weeds. It needs to be taken care of. It's a beautiful area out there. And I'm proud to live there to this day. And I think that when we do these developments, the first one tonight, I'm okay with, but it's not a beautiful development like this one could be. And my vision is for Kenny, if he's still working, he's got a nice little store there. He's selling more corn, more squash, more anything that he can grow because there's more people there. And when there's more people on smaller lots, the tax load is spread out more. I don't know what's going to happen with the valley going to incorporate, but I know what happened when we didn't, and it was a good move. So having said that, I don't like to talk much, but for me, I always end up like the song's name, For What It's Worth. Thank you.
Now Syracuse is going to hate our planning commission.
That's okay. All right, commissioners, any other comments on this? Questions for staff or the applicant?
Chair, I'll make a couple comments. This is honestly a really tough decision for me. I look out in the audience and I have family and friends that I feel like I'm very close to, and they're on both sides of this. I truly believe that this commission cares about the community and their neighbors and their family and friends. And every decision we make, we're taking that into consideration. I would love to see this still be in farmland. It affects me personally to not have it be farmland, as far as my selfishness and being able to hunt in those areas. But if I was to only consider that and only consider having to compete with Brian O'Pikins on hunting wood ducks, that would be none of you care about that, right? That's my only problem with that part. I've seen it in my own family with generations that were farming. The areas that I grew up going to with family celebrations on the farm, making those connections with my family and seeing it whittle away because nobody in the family wanted to carry on what my great grandfather was doing for a long time and generations before him. It's sad, it's hard, but it's also like one of the other people had said when I spoke, and some of our commissioners, we have a property owner that has rights as well. And the only way for me to prevent them from having those rights is by taking their rights, by giving them a chunk of change that I don't have. So I feel like we need to respect everybody's rights and privileges, not, and especially if it's the person that owns that property. I feel like I was probably the one that Mr. Gibson was quoting as far as, yeah, it's nice, but I don't want to live there. I don't feel like that's the way I quoted it. I think it could be a nice development, but it's probably not the type of development that I would choose to live in currently. But there's a lot of folks that wouldn't want to live where I'm living right now either, in a 1,000 square foot house with a big pole barn. That's not ideal for a lot of people. There's needs out there. Mr. O'Pikins mentioned that we need homes for our future generations. I'm looking at my kids and want them to still live close by if possible. I look at my wife's family, my family, and how a lot of my cousins were able to stay in the same area with their family because luckily they had family that had that property to give it to them. So it's really tough. It's tough to put the benefits to everybody. There's always pros and cons to every decision we make. And I respect Commissioner Andreotti a lot. I don't feel like there's much more to say to add to his comments, but I agree with what he was saying. So.
I'm done. Don't look at me.
Now, I guess I'll just say this, the last few years since 2020 have been very challenging. We went through a pandemic. We saw prices just go every which way but down. We've seen that even more. It's even more pronounced, not just in our day-to-day living goods, but in our housing. It's extraordinarily expensive to live in a house, to even acquire a house, to even come up with a down payment. And that down payment now used to be what a house cost when I was younger. And I don't think it's right to not have the ability to provide a home, an owned home, for people who want to own a home. And that's what, these kind of communities provide. They provide really a community that allows for everything that, well, I'll speak for this side of the group, from me this way, that we grew up with. These guys over here, they've been able to experience it, but it's been a little more expensive. But I'll guarantee you, for my grandkids, for my kids and for my grandkids, it's almost impossible. And if things keep going the way they are, it will be impossible to own property, period. Now, does that mean that this is the right fit for this community or not the right fit for this community? Not necessarily, and that's not how I'm making up my mind on it. But what I am saying is, I think the key here is opportunity. And when we talk about opportunity, we're not just talking about opportunity for the current property owner and his profitability. And we all know that there has to be profitability involved in this in order for this community to establish. It has to. We live in a capitalist world. That's how it's supposed to work. And it does work that way. But to go along with that, there are processes in place like the one that we're in tonight that, when I say govern, I mean throttle the process. They slow the move. They put that democratic, Mr. McFarland, if I can steal your thunder a little bit, they put that democratic process in place. And that's what this is all for. And I know that, there's a lot of people that make comments, and some of them mean it and some of them don't, that they think that anybody that's involved in government, including this voluntary commission that's right here in front of you, voluntary commission that's right here in front of you, that there's some sort of gain in this for us. There is no gain in this. The gain that I've gotten out of being on this commission for the time period that I've been on it is experience. And what that experience tells me is what we're seeing over time. And what we're seeing over time goes back to what I've already mentioned, and that is a need for community housing where the housing can be affordable. I love the idea of being able to walk to things. I think that we've gotten to that point in our society that we need to be able to walk to things, because we can't build enough roads to have everybody have to get on the road to go to their job, to go to their activities, to go to church, whatever they go to. You can't put enough roads in place. We're at that tipping point where we need to take all of these things into consideration as we go forward and plan for 50 to 100 years from now. So when we hear that this is a good thing, and we kind of get that taken out of context when things are talked about, and that's all fine. But I just want folks to remember that there's a lot of consideration that goes into this. This is not something that's done lightly. This is something that takes a lot of hours. And this group up here, along with staff, along with our commission, has put a lot of hours and effort into this. This is not just something that people are going to gain from, and that's simply the way that it's looked at. So to get the more positive point across, and that is to build a community that has such great potential as this one does, and to provide something for our generations to come.
Well, commissioners, there's been a lot of good comments up here, and I want to start off by thanking the public for being here. Whether you got up and spoke or not, I appreciate, seeing the representation coming from the area. I will say I'm a little bit shocked to have only 9 public comments on an item to this. This is a pretty good change. This is the public process. The general plan comes around every few years, but like it's been stated, it's a guiding document. I think Mr. Andreotti stated it pretty well. Changes come, changes happen. And, I think every one of us face a change every day of our life. And, if a change wouldn't have happened and, for whatever reasons it was that, now farmers decided to go down a different road, whatever that may be, but he has every right now to get the best that he can out of his ground, whether he's going to retire or he's going to take his operation somewhere else. But, I'm not going to dive into more that you guys have already said. I echo a lot of the comments that's been made tonight, and appreciate, you folks being here and stating your concerns and so with that, if there's no further comments, no further questions, I'm ready for a decision on this item if you guys are as well. Well, before we dive onto that, I do have one question, or I guess, are you guys, is the rest of the commission in favor of pulling out them other areas that staff has put in here and only focusing on the applicant's area or the area between 4700 West the River and 12th Street?
Yes,
Moving those ones further west.
I'm comfortable with that.
I'm in favor of that.
Okay,
Yes.
so we just need to make sure we note that in any motion that's made that we're pulling those sections out. And Charlie, we can look at those. They need to come through us on their own agenda item and focus on them, especially where this is an applicant driven change.
Chair, I'll make a motion. I move we forward a positive recommendation to the county commission for file GPA 2024-05, an application to amend the Western Weber General Plan's future land use map to better contemplate and guide a potential development between 4700 West, the river to the west, and 1100 South, and the river to the north as well. The effective date of these proposed amendments should be dependent on the adoption of a development agreement and rezone of the applicant's property. I do so with the following findings. The changes are supported by the Western Weber General Plan. Proposal serves as an instrument to further implement the vision, goals, and principles of the Western Weber General Plan, and the changes will enhance the general health and welfare of Western Weber residents.
I've got a motion, but I've got I guess a clarifying question on that motion.
Yep.
So that statement, the effective date for these proposed amendments should be dependent on, so nothing goes into changing the general plan based on your motion until this goes through a rezone process and a development agreement is signed, so it locks everything in. If this was to not move forward with this application, it would then just revert back to what it is today, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to clarify that on the motion. All right, I've got a motion. Do I have a second on the motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call on this one. Commissioner Neville.
Yay.
Commissioner Favero.
Aye.
Commissioner Andriotti.
Aye.
Commissioner McCormick.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. That passes. All right, next item on our agenda is going to be public comments for items not on tonight's agenda. If anybody wishes to speak on items not on the agenda, on tonight's agenda, now's the time. Please state your name and address.
I have numerous. Jill Hippo, 585 South, 3600 West. We've talked about this many times that we do not get enough citizens in here. I still think part of it is the notification process. I have brought this up many times that in Morgan, there is an ordinance that puts a sign on the lot for any zone changes or map changes. At least that'll give people driving by an opportunity. I try to watch what's coming out and I try to put it out there, but that doesn't mean they're going to come in there. Second, it used to be when I first started coming here, we could come to the workshops and actually correspond with you guys, which I think actually helps set it up. You don't get that correspondence here. I don't know whatever happened to that, but I think that's another point that the citizens could come in and check it out. Thirdly, this should be the last thing. We're going to have a lot of mixed use coming in. I don't know if you guys caught that Ogden City was re-looking at their ordinances with the major collector streets and like townhomes and apartments. Did you guys see that at all? And so we might want to keep that in mind too. We might not want to, because it did say it really nailed some of their connectivity issues with the pedestrians and stuff like that. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Joan. I really appreciate your efforts to get the information out to the community on these items. All right, next item on our agenda, remarks from planning commissioners.
Just one, and I want to echo what the chair said. We appreciate y'all coming in here. These are not easy decisions to make. Long time ago, we never seen anything like this. Two people had come in, and we really appreciate you coming in and voicing your opinions. It's not easy. It's the process, and we're in rapid change. So thank you for coming.
Yeah. It was an easy decision for me. Not that I liked it, except for the rights of private ownership is what America was built on. And I'll say it like my dad used to tell me, nothing stays the same. There's always plenty to do and there's never enough money.
Hey, Commissioner. No wise wisdom tonight? Always want to hear from you. We'll get to him in a minute. Okay, Director Grover.
I know I've updated you, planning commission on this, but I'd like to let the public know about this as well. As the county commission has given direction to staff to look at a general plan amendment along the 12th Street corridor, just to make sure that we get it right along that area, because we do have a considerable amount of people that are wanting to submit applications along that area. So they indicated that on this one, they'll have to make a vote on that or how they want to handle this. But on ones that will be coming, they are wanting to look at a general plan amendment along the 12th Street corridor. And so we are looking at getting funding out where we'll hire a consultant and look at that process. So there'll be different open houses and things like that that will occur along with that. So I just wanted more of the public to be aware of that, that you are already aware of that. So.
Thank you, Director. Liam. One comment, come on.
Yeah, no, it was actually good to see the process play out in a very orderly, nice fashion tonight. So you guys did well. The public did well. It was a good meeting.
Thanks, Liam.
Welcome.
Always appreciate the wisdom from Liam. All right, with that, we're going to adjourn to a work session. If you'd like to stick around, we're going to move back into the chambers back there around the table.
10-minute break.
Yeah, 10-minute break.
All right, we'll get going work session items. First item, work session number 1, discussion regarding a rezone of a change in zoning of a 40-acre parcel from A1 to R115, 4093 west, 1400 south, first D development tonight. Make that second one, boy.
Yeah, how's it going, guys?
You up, Felix?
I think I wasn't sure of the slides, you know, comment.
You can come to it. I'll get a little too hot, but really not. I have that effect, so I didn't go ahead. Be careful, you're right. You go right on. I know it's going.
Right. This is an active application, we haven't even accepted it for review, and so we should be seeing the public hearing item next month. So this is their connectivity plan. Probably will have a street, but 1400 South Street and
$4,300 west. So this is where you're seeing a lot of the development, like Marshfield, House, food stuff. I'm telling you, kind of in that space, you know, block to grow. A lot of interest. And what the developer is providing their roadway and connectivity plan, and they've also provided some examples of how the lots will be laid out. They're taking the general plan and use that as considered like their value. Yeah, density and but me not that. Let me understand the figure involved and then one thing. Yeah, let me see that. And so it's a little better than yeah. So we're looking to go to 30 acres on this one, pretty much straight. Yeah. And we're doing the whole parcel, and this part over in the northwest corner is gonna be left out. Yeah, it almost looks like that would be left as open space. You know, you have a couple of open space parts. Behind the old house, that's so there's two houses over there. Right, so there's two lots. Right. But you're gonna rezone the whole thing in the future? Yeah. Right. How about this one? Yeah. Right. That is the part. That is one of the things to find. Water already. So these lots that are in the center though, where it says the south and the west, are those really that long and thin? Oh, yeah, right there. They have it's an 8-inch stuff, but are you talking this block here in the center? No, I'm sorry. The subdivision we're looking at is further north, right? And where is the whole parcel that's going to be developed? Green. Yeah, the whole parcel. What are these lots right here? Can't tell me to the west. What's these right here? There's a road in the middle, and it's kind of, so where the white thing is the road. Okay, all right, got it. It just kind of throws you off, because it actually has a street designation on it, huh? Okay. Let's go on to the next one. That's better. If I think of it, this is that's what we do with out there. Well, maybe the other community, both the west and south. Did you go that one? That's been a long time ago. You know where it goes? Not that far. That's not big, though. No, that's the old. That's not old enough to have built that. Yeah, I was gonna say, no, I didn't do that. Mario and Georgia built that first part. It was a good subdivision. So yeah, this is their middle and staff was responding with some comments to the middle there. It was mostly just aligned with the little better the street. It looks like recommended also that the committee about to oh, sorry, no. What I'm suggesting is that we have a street that starts into the larger, I agree. Okay, so there's a street right here that was is that for it to be able to do something better in the future? Yeah. There is something I don't know if because like the landowners want to talk about like conservation easement or an open space zone or something like that, that's like they have free stuff about it. Talk about so long as they're happy to do it. Oh, wait a second. I see. I think we're taking all the like we're putting it okay. Oh, good point. Yeah, what do we look at that way? Yeah, they don't have anything to do. I mean, they don't, right? So, yeah, we'll, I can check. Yeah. Maybe from the The thing that's bad about that is that it creates that in our community. We got this nice subdivision on that Selmy, we got this nice subdivision on the rest of Martini property, and then you got 3 acres, and they're nice, the 3 homes are there, the one's really nice, the other one's not that. But buy the whole thing and develop it all. Oh, really? There's not people. Try harder. Is it something that they could eventually, where I know storage units are poor, but it's something that you know, it's very commercial, I'm still going around. And they could put something like that on. Where it's still, well, I don't disagree with that, but. You know, it's why it's part of the approach. They can have looked at it. We didn't know what to do. I'm thinking we didn't know yet. That's why he's got a little bit of so you can really step. Well, the thing about that is, as long as Beverly and wife have one of the kids might move into her house and running and stuff like that. Yeah. Well, that stuff in those is really good. Yeah. Is there something be able to happen there, because at some point in time, that's going to turn into something other than what it is right. Even if it's just reservation of a future potential future right with, even that's a better way to go about it if they are maximizing the density. Because you're right, I mean, we could always zone it at another time and get maybe apartments in there or townhomes or something. You know, it's a townhome, but it wouldn't be any worse than the one on 4700 West. Well, that's the neighbors that we go for in there. Can't do that way. But if you look at the general plan, the railroad tracks, the north, the south side of it is all buffered with mixed residential. So the idea that South Jason plan went after that was we should have some ability to put some vertical apartments along the railroad track to buffer the single family from the railroad. Well, primarily right now, Scott Martini's plan to be the, yeah, you know, first track, his shop back there. I mean, if it needs to be the property or I don't know if it's a good time to allow commercial type use on this, but you still need to say, don't R1 15, but if it's an acre, then make it continue with what you have. I mean, I don't know, you're thinking along that, horses, yeah. That's where they feel better first. I know that, I know that that's not the way. Scott's getting close to that. He's been there, that's all straight. They're getting close to 65. And, they're age, well, they need obligation. I think you're getting close to being able to pull the plug on having to go to work every day. But, I just think that needs to have some potential for the future rather than just like 3 acres, 3 ground. It's going to be more into something that's going to be fine. That in all honesty, I think we consider in a way in the future that I will be sourcing to be small, and that would be a great radius for the Martini family down the road. You need them do that and something that is doable. Yeah, we can put a development agreement without changing the zone. I usually like to change the zone that, you know, in a way that reflects what we have in our development agreement, but we've been doing less of that lately with some of those development agreements. So, yeah, we can certainly
we would want to see before we approve the development agreement, though, we want to lay out of new homes, you know, how to shield it from. Yeah, if you guys are okay with it.
I don't know why, but every one of those houses, you don't need it, there's a need for it, I'd still rather see it be like that. And so, I'll be the unpopular one. Somebody has to, yes. I guarantee I wasn't there tonight, we might as well carry it forward.
Okay. You guys will probably see this on your agenda next month unless we have a lot more to talk about as far as.
Okay, anything else? Okay. Thanks. Thanks. The next item, work session 2, discussion regarding the zoning map amendment that would change the zoning of 45-acre parcel from M1 to R3. Reaching more than less 3,300 now. That most of you know is another property in the county. So this is kind of surprised me when I get it.
Yeah, so this one is calling the Midland Townhome Project. This is done by GR Woodley. We have the owner of the land here today as well as the development and construction well, I'm not sure that there were four something, but we need to know the problem about it's that time that we from the south and like and moving the south. We also have representatives from our city, from the administration, we have two families. I'm Joe Simpson. Really want to still see from us? Please. Oh, yeah. You want everything. Yeah. You said about it. You guys were dogging on my therapy. See, I grew up on a farm and said, don't say now. I agree with everything you said. That farm was just end of the statement. That third mistake of the thing. Okay, what do you got, Felix? Midland Townhome Project. And that one, and then unincorporated island, as you just kind of see. And so I think our problem is that something kind of started on it and you guys can ask me questions or we'll see the one when we. Good seeing that. Show us where it's down. That where's the bail? It's still on that bail. Yeah. I got some of these hard copies for you guys. First time you guys have seen this, not to say that we haven't put up some front end work. We kind of started at the direction of staff, met multiple times with them, and worked towards county commission work session, just to see if this was a viable option for us, if we wanted to move forward with it. As it stands right now, we think 2 out of the 3 gave us direction to move forward with you guys. And have you take a look at it. So we submitted the full application. So there's some good discussion with general plan amendment tonight. This involves a rezone of what our application is to what the general plan is currently showing. Giving some context here, the property that in the application is outlined in blue. You have West Haven, northwest, Ogden to the east. This whole island right here is Weber County, not just the property that we're looking at buying here. Looking at a similar density to what is outlined in yellow, our application is for
the entire property for the R3 zone. We'll probably go with that. Little tough to see, but on the kind of southeast corner there is the island that's under county control. The general plan has it for mixed use residential and potential language space. We're looking for R3 rezone. Site plan here. We've done a lot of work with staff. Kind of went through multiple iterations on this. We have some front-loaded alley townhomes along the track. Everything else interior is all alley-loaded townhomes. Get to it a little bit later with some of the difficulties that we're dealing with right now. Kind of love to get your guys' comments on, mainly with secondary water. That's kind of why you're seeing limited landscaping here. We're proposing kind of a structure with CCNRs. We're still pursuing secondary. If we exhaust all efforts and can't find that, we will try to work with sponsors to make those proposals that whole game was difficult and not having secondary.
There's only the base in that, and you can see it.
I haven't got it. So what I've been told, the work that I've done thus far is Roy Water considers the district explosive. But what their director told me is not impossible, but kind of blow up the project cost of trying to get a secondary done to the site. We are looking at avenues. You know, you guys probably know the back history of the property more, but there is some water that's getting to the site somehow. There are some underground water drains that are in possession of maybe water or something like that. So we're looking into those avenues a little bit more. It's kind of difficult trying to pin down the right percentage and like that.
No, question is, Charlie. What's our stance on water? Because we want to go.
Yeah, as far as zero casing goes and all that, would be, what we've got ordinances that do require very limited turf grass as it is. And we develop those with Weaver Basin Water Conservancy District. But do we require them to have secondary water?
Yeah.
Yes, but they can also satisfy that with full. So that's so our ordinance that says that this culinary would work on the secondary as long as the culinary provider is comfortable with that.
So this is a 55-year-old community. No, this is all, you know, I don't see a place for kids to go other than get run over in any direction you go. Or Midland or 1900.
Okay, there's one of the parks out there that's been taken down in the spot.
Okay, all right.
I like every $500.
I agree though, there's gonna be politicians, and I put some hot watch or something in there. Yeah, that's for the guys that play. I don't mind them, that seems like there's no place to get.
Well, we're going further out, we're going to yeah, come off and see that.
Well, we do, it's part of our annexation. And it's all, what we would want, what we're wanting to do, what part of our annexation plan is that, is part of it, that's part of it, industrial area, all. We're already maybe to a point, like, a VDO is being maxed out, and we're actually looking at demoing some of the existing buildings to maximize that space. Additionally, I just think that what you're saying is there's not any schools nearby or parks nearby or pedestrian connections that could support a residential development next to our airport, like near one of the runways. So we feel that the highest and best use would be industrial. In fact, I met with a couple of months ago, the neighboring property, property, and really looking at doing a warehouse development of that property as well.
No, we definitely would want to manage in the city, to support the industrial park. If you have a room, you have a. I'm the landowner, my name's Brian Blam, and I was heavily involved with the general plan, walking it, and the reality is, if we did on the city size industrial use, but it's still going to not the industrial world. There isn't very much demand, and there's a huge need for this housing, not shoving it all over the west and north, all kind of planet well, but it's close to the freeway. And when you look at it from a map of this Ogden city, it may look like it's, it's an industrial, but all you have to do, not like this, and to the west is pretty much all housing to the west. So the same thing right across the. Yeah, right across the street, so. No, I don't, but one thing to be clear too, it looks like they're contiguous, they're contiguous, but you got a rail that's like 40 feet high in between, so it's not, even if there was enough, you probably didn't see it. If you went with the zero thing, you're probably pretty good to that, these are basic, you just have a furnace to yeah, we've done that. You guys will be developing, that's what we've done as landowners elsewhere, work with cities on. All this water comes from basically, it starts at 4,400 south, it comes through the airport, comes down off the hill, and that's how the water gets there, and also then continues down 1900. So that's like across the Jordan Valley, the old farm, you can use on the thing. I mean, there's water here, Hampton, you always have a lot of water when it comes to there. Where that's run, I don't know. I mean, there's water available. Now that's in a ditch, there's some that's not in a fresh area. This is like the reason they can use their line. I don't know how close Real Basin has a line. We would have to do that. Well, somewhere, I don't know what that is. You know what? All this stuff is really their own system, really secondary. But that's how they think all of that. Hampton, you get water out of really secondary pressure lines with water that west side. Yeah. Well, I don't know why we still have to get it board underneath 1900. Well, if they've got the water, then you've got the water share. We even connect water to it, but if you'd be able to answer all of our secondary water leaks because of I've been working with a big like paddle river, development in Florida right now. All of them are pretty good to work with, so. You lost it. Good night. It's been the opposite. He's the landowner, and I'm building that one, but that's the opposite. Anyway, my concern with this is you're getting a lot of density on the ground, and I don't see it. I mean, you got a lot of people, consolidated in that area. I don't have a problem with the proposal. When I first put it, I was going to talk a little bit. If there's a process in which we're going to be more efficient, like you guys make it more positive, what is the commission say? Well, we haven't actually, we met with Commissioner May, the one we met with last week for, yeah, we indicated that, and my dad's student body president, he left me know that we were on a campaign, man. Yeah, so at least he didn't live on negative to him or something. But he indicated, he's not opposed to doing it here in the county. He's got utilities to be able to do it that way. We're not looking to use on different things, general planning. So yeah, and I can see the and you feel that it's really and they will agree at that time for having so there's mixed things that you always said, but I just want you to be aware of that. Well, they want to, why the heck did we put it in manufacturing with this general like? Well, it is on manufacturing. The option, or either manufacturing or manufacturing. So that it gives a difference. And that's what we make. That was kind of my thought, when that whole process went, obviously, good raise their hand and say, they didn't want that for the general plan at the time. It was clearly designated that for a reason, and
Well, I think that's what I do. That's kind of my thought. Why didn't we leave it in manufacturing if it went to do just like we did in other areas? When we did the general plan, I don't even remember talking about that. You know, I know you're going to see, I don't know, the land was there. No, I was, but that's okay. You know, we did get some, information from obviously the time, that's for the, I do remember the meeting when we did talk about it, during our work sessions, and, it was, at a time that we were talking a lot about affordable housing, making sure we got, housing attainable, housing attainability in our community. But the reason why I wanted to focus on this area in that meeting was because it was at odds with obviously annexation and zone plans. Yeah, but my concern with this whole thing with Ogden City, Ogden City is trying to take away one of the best amenities we have in this county right now, to build more industrial. So I'm sorry, but I don't care what Ogden City has to say. They don't care what we want. Or they wouldn't be trying to take away our fairgrounds right now, right? I mean, sorry, would you? Yeah. Probably a different part. I'm sorry with that. Why should we? I get we want to work together, but don't seem like they really want to work with us to take the fairgrounds out there. They want to build more BDO buildings. Well, and that's reasonable consideration. That's why we wanted to go to the county commissioners in the beginning, because we knew that there would be some activities, and we didn't know if there'd be a question of commission of Ogden City. Certainly didn't want to play the landowner and the applicant, against either, or the commission against either of them. We just wanted to make sure that everybody's happy and rainbows and flowers and. We don't like rainbows. We want to be, will you bring up the zoning map? If you can. While you're doing that, quick question, isn't this area going to a major renovation with the on-ramp? FR 108 will continue all the way through there and tie into I-15. Just a little bit to the north of Lake Vernon and water, which they're concept planning. Yeah, this design, where are we at on? Where you're, all right, and this is Weber County right here. Then we go up, where's 3,300 here? 36, where's 30? 3,300, right on the north corner. Right here? Yeah. Okay, well, I'll tell you what concerns. I'm not concerned, but I want to talk about it for a second. This is kind of a hodgepodge of commercial, light industrial, and it's not very well organized. It's really kind of messy. Levelor's up in here somewhere. And it seems like west of Levelor, Ogden City it's kind of just hodgepodge. So what I don't want to see is more of that same kind of development if this becomes Ogden City, because if that's what it's going to be, then I want it to be what you guys are proposing, only with some amenities to it. Because this is really, to me, a mess. And if you drive down 3,300, you'll see what I'm talking about. There's no organization to it whatsoever. And I went to school with kids that lived up in here. So as far as this getting kids to school, no big deal. As far as having a place for them to park or stretch their legs, a place to have a park and be able to stretch your legs, I would want to see something more in here than what's on that proposal. But I don't want to see a continuation of this if we decide that this is going to be zoned the way that Ogden City wants it. And if it's going to get zoned the way that Ogden City wants it, then damn it, Ogden City is going to take it. Yeah. Well, maybe you ought to go, you think you can do it for elderly people, where you don't hard, and you kids to put it off. And there's a big man. One thing I would comment on the 32, I think a lot of that is unique to family. The Ogden City is a lot of those uses for grandfather and to come into the city the way they are. That's why it's 5,000 years for their text. So they
what it looks like with trees out there, because of all the islands and.
Well, I'm on right, and you tell that, is that, you know, yeah, but before, it's going on, when somebody dies, you know, the news is something, and someone plans and we can improve it, and we put it in there.
And I would say that our manufacturing zone, that's a lot. When we not really, because we use zoning, we like to have that access to many areas, areas, so we pursue the canopy. Working as well, as trying to do, and we're hoping to see kind of what's happening. I don't know if you've had fairgrounds, I know on this video,
When you go out those minutes, right? Yeah.
You got a deal. I will know another thing about the manufacturing. We did try to lay out several years. It's a triangle. And so it's really inefficient to get your circulation with big fillings and trucks and stuff on the triangle. There's no of that.
How you going to around the corner?
It's just really inefficient compared to normal industrial. I think another thing to note too, in the meeting, a work session with Ogden City and County Commissioner, Mr. Brierly stated, you know, he showed properties to the industrial tenants in the past. We took them to this, you know, around 20 acres or so, took them to this site, and ultimately they came to, you know, wasn't enough acreage. And I think, you know, to Brian's point, he has shown it to kind of the appetite hasn't been.
About many years ago, when we did it was industrial, we just couldn't have a good practice. So it was like, as a general plan, we're like, look at, you got an opportunity to knock out everything west and both the access to the freeway. You're learning that this is for sale product as we go, so it's not just rental, they go for sale and it should be attainable price point. Well, it is a compromise between you and Ogden City. Everyone can go in there, and Ogden City sells the job just for you. Everybody walks through. For what we're looking at Black Pine, I like that. I do. And put it down to go over there.
Yeah, I think too, we can take a close look at the plan, but kind of that half red line is, you know, proposed show within the subdivision. Yeah.
Recognize when we, you know, like something like that. It wouldn't go up, it would probably make it a whole single ball. I put the first one down there with cross and they laughed at me, but nobody's gonna play those things. Now they're expanded on the ones I put in. Thanks for listening. Either that or they're selling rocks or they're moving from.
Well, the other thing to think about is, we'd still be expecting the donations to Parks District, and this isn't going to create a own on the Parks District, so then these people have to figure that out from.
Actually, it would, because there's no parking.
And so in Little Park, if they choose to go west, to go to a park, which.
They'll go to West Haven.
I think they, West Haven, or they go into the Ogden.
We're both one straight west.
So, it's not cool, but if they're developing in cars, then they need to find something. Well, they're still part of Weaver County and
yeah, I'm one, I mean, I agree, I started that conversation, here's another gift. Make it big enough so it's worthwhile for the park district to actually take it on, not huge, don't make.
what standard is it now for that? Like, in a lot of cities, it seems like it's gotta be 9 acres.
The park district wants 5 of their.
Well, yeah, and over that, typically I've seen 5 or 2 tougher, yeah, that were cities and counties in the down.
But yeah, but that, $7,500 contribution that standard on, we'd want to see something like that. And that would be your benefit of the park district.
Yeah, and, you know, Charlie, I think, you know, in our meetings that we've had, at first when we came in, we anticipated that. I think when we discussed it more, the direction, how I understood it was, there was no park in the area that's in district. Therefore, maybe I read it wrong, but
We can't make it. We can't exactly.
okay.
It's just a question of, is it important enough, to the county, to negotiate with it?
We'll get down to whether it's recreation or anything else. Yeah. Well, so far, places in there and all that, so where? Program in the whole city.
All parts of pretty popular, business and social, and
I was gonna say, we'd like to get some good hardscape, trails connecting this, development to West Weaver Park. I mean, a lot of different opportunities. We knew when we were doing this in the general plan that it would come down to, this question, in this time. Are we comfortable going against Ogden City, which is, and if we are, what?
Well, I prefer to work with Ogden too, than, you know, because, you know, that's what we got. History shows we go against them. Why do they hit the landowners there, there's not an income in manufacturing. We're just starting, Brett. And they're going to make for all that. I think they'll be getting started to work. Well, you know what I tell them? The landowner says there's no need to invest in the city, land. I can't tell them. But there's no need to invest in it. And he's right. Get around all those cars with big trucks and there's no. I'm not saying there's no need for industrial anywhere, but on this site, I have that great broker that he's one of the biggest, and he couldn't get stuff to work with it. So, where do you want to say trail on the old Grand Line come across there at? Because the point of the trail, relating that trail to it, if that reaches the park and bullets too, that aren't very far away.
So right now,
They would be about 4,800, about 4,800, maybe not quite. That's right by the one we're building in Roy, that big park down the rail trail, it's not far away.
so right now, the rail line that goes right past the property, is not that rail line, it's the next one over.
Right.
But that trail ends at Hinckley, and then from Hinckley, and you have to jump on.
We just gotta get across the Hinkley to connect to it. Can you imagine, you go, there's a tunnel in Hinkley.
Yeah,
With that rail line still active. The old rail line, were they part of the tankers, it's not our food tracks. The west pavement side of the townhome, that rail line, they still part.
Oh, am I already getting on? Looks like you are. Look at that, that's still on it, okay. So, this is, Google. I will be. So, let me pull out so here's the triangle piece here. Here's the, UTA connection. Wow.
So that triangle,
Delayed reaction, so let's try the triangle again, let's see the triangle. Wow. Let's see if we can do it. So this is the property here, this is the UTA rail line, here's Hinckley, DNRG rail goes to right here, jumps onto that asphalt there, up onto Hinckley, goes down to the intersection, oh, no.
no, it runs right there.
They fixed that. Okay, so it goes under and then across and then up. And then from here, it makes its way up through West Haven and it connects to the, river corridor.
Well, but finish the trail, let's finish the trail on the DOT.
UTA owns that portion of it, and, Union Pacific still uses it for.
That's what you're talking about. And you do see those colors back, but they have mentioned that, I remember seeing that.
But if, if the Hansons were willing to work with, these guys, you can, if you can, get under 1900. You can at least connect this development over to. Along the, you know, you can get, I don't know how much space is under there, you can get down here and come out. I don't know. Anything like that, kind of, you know, of course, I'm not looking at it in the 3D world, I don't know what the, I know it's a big great changes.
No, it's pretty clean down through there, and then you look down from 1900 or from the expressway, it's pretty clear. There's not a lot through there, and if you're coming down on maybe, or if you're parked up on 3300 waiting for a train, when the train goes by, you can see down across the opening, the tunnel on 1900. It's pretty clear, and there's a pretty good size opening next to the tracks there. And regional signs, yeah. I think the West Ogden sign as well. Hoping that it could go under 1900 and follow the bell, basically over to Fort Flanders to the Centennial. If there was money in railroad right away, they've got to deal with, you know, that. They have a lot. I measure some places 250 dollars.
What's on QTA, right? Oh, not the whole thing.
No, only just a little section.
I see. Yeah, that's fine. What I can see, do you think they changed the thing a little bit on what the use of the property is, if there's a fix back on this with the trail? Or at least, good contribution towards making this connection?
If you could get the railroad, to let them build the trail all the way from Fort Flanders trail, they usually drive, I was building my trail.
Great. I mean, go from regional to municipal, back to regional again, I mean, I think that, you know, we'll do it down the table. Good for you folks, you know, I don't know if it's a slam dunk deal, or, you know, if it's going to go through that, but, no, nobody. No.
Well, that helps me if we get a trailer to get to a larger part, but in the meantime, it gives us what we look at. I don't mind getting it, but we need to do something else. Somebody will be able to do that. I mean, this is like 363. You probably need something else. About like 14 times 47, you know, 23 and R2 around 14.5. So just slightly under it, you know, not like that. About what? I don't know if we're obligated to. And we have one. Yeah, we're open, we're just kind of looking for some direction, if we're looking at, you know, the 7,500 unit donation, still provide. You know, we anticipated that, like that, you know, we're open to hearing feedback and kind of what amenities that you guys would have to see on that as well. Should be more involved in the I've got to find out. I don't know how you go about. So if we go back,
They don't involve the finance department. That's a different department.
That's the department of extraction, they don't want to. So if we go back and talk, how do we firm up what we need to propose or whatever? That's like, maybe we come to another work session before you propose.
So that you guys, just kind of throw it out. I think getting the same. Maybe not. I mean, you know, so they would work by half. I have to know figure it out. So we can figure it out. You probably might be bring it back with some more. Yeah, we'll put them in the work session. Yeah, we'll come back in a month, that means they're in the work session, we'll make it right and come back with it, so, yeah.
And I'm not asking for 5 years, but I'd like to see.
There's gotta be some more of those. I like the zero safe idea.
Yeah.
You know, you can't get the water to work out.
I don't want to see you waste money or anything. What's the water for that? Well, you got a call like that. We open all.
Same like we have outside.
I don't need all that. That's all we can build upon.
They're on really low.
What you open up the legal landscape without water and that, that's something we gotta look at hard because that's all.
Oh, well, but that happens in there.
But all we do is that, it doesn't even have to do it.
Well, and you can do part zero safe without having to put, there's ways to do that, with that. A lot, I mean, we're all having to go that way and say, the water situation.
I would have done that my first one out.
I actually just did, my wife had that grass, but we could only have, from my place is 100 square feet, so we went first and we actually really like it. I was really unsure about it at first, because I was like, but we like it.
Yeah, I think Felix, you'll forget to show, I got a slide on that. We got a couple of images from the landscape architect. This is on different projects that they've done, but would like to get your guys' feedback. Yeah, how that is.
What's that? That was like an Ogden Valley.
One slide. One more.
Just make it, just make it clear, your taping isn't
Not made of that, so I like that.
it's minimal. Yeah.
It's water.
Very like it.
Trees, yeah, don't tell the engineer.
Well, it's scary.
I agree. Yeah, it'll all be HOA, private streets, all.
And the maintenance is the key. And I think they wasn't like that, where it's individual residents.
And I think that was kind of, you know, at the discussion of the parts, the donation, and then what we provide. I think that was another factor I wanted to bring. This is all private HOA, so on-site part, like a public part.
Yeah, you would have to put all that.
I would make it over the top. It's always good to. No, let's make Gary go.
Yeah, yes, I second that. Yeah, looking this area, what if that park money is invested in a pathway, and if you can't get under that, underpass, maybe, maybe a Hinkley, take it from Hinkley intersection all the way down to the rail corridor, work with Hampton. They've already got a farm access right there, they might be willing to do something. They were really reasonable to work with on doing UPAT project, which was, essentially discovering a different alternative for fueling applicants for the downtown. So UPAT was Utah Collaborative Active Transportation Study, I think is what it was. And at that point, they're looking at the rail corridor coming down to Midland Drive, and then, or Hinkley Drive, and then from there, where is it? Right. they identified, I think it was 3 or 4 different alternatives. One of them was running on the rail line, one of them was jumping out to, Midland or the new Midland, when it does the redesign. And having a nice pedestrian corridor going all the way down, from Fourth Street to the super. Seems like probably the easiest way to get pedestrians to downtown from this area. So whatever way you guys want to landowners to enhance that opportunity. That would be great, and if we can find a way to make it active, in a way that obviously like, maybe not getting all that, is okay. Maybe go with it. Straight up. Would you guys be okay if all the money, 7,500 for front door was invested in halfway back? You know, it's like only this halfway spend. And not just a really spend that will be done. Yeah. Exactly. How many years ago that supposed to be,
Yeah, and I think out there with him, the proposal, maybe in a combo where there's a little bit better part, really go in the board, I think. More with them, some other, so, you know, not having the vote.
So that's, a little over 2.5 million towards, halfway time. It could be 7,500 for front door. Not to say that that is the number that we're holding on. I like the idea of you putting $2.5 million worth of investment in, but it only has to be, you know, if we can find a way to make that work. Maybe the first part. I'll put it on the table. Cool. I'll talk to you guys, at the beginning of the month. Hey, baby. That's the final commission, if they're okay, if they do work, potentially in the first Tuesday of December. Oh, yeah. It's funny, hey, you go right ahead, I want to be there. First Tuesday in December, yes. What, that'd be December 3rd. Third? Yeah, I think I'll let that go. And then another one. I was supposed to be in Ogden Valley, work session, but kind of sounds like they're incorporated, so. Might as well.
Did that vote go through?
Yeah, that's nice. I think you still need that. You don't want to hang out, then they really hang out.
I told Trevor that the other day. He knows like it. What a hate the landowner up there. Yeah. Well, guys. Thank you. Thanks for your time, guys.